Yeah. Hello, my name is Martin Petrasen, and we will talk about how to design game mechanics. It will be only 20 minutes, so there is like few quick ideas how about like improve get better in those processes. So about me, I'm currently working as a gameplay designer in Warhorse Studio. Before that, I created my own studio. It's called Feather Snail Games. We mainly created games for advertisements, but we also try to develop our long project, which was game Chicken Empire Wizard in Shadows. You can currently uh, find it on Steam, but it will never be released because some of disagreements in team, and we were working on it for 3 years. So if you want to any ideas how to fail in your small team, I have some few experiences with that, and it actually helped me a lot with my game development in a team. Also, I helped to develop a board game called Legion Siberian Story, which is a game about Czechoslovak Legion during First World War, and it was released by Albi around Europe. And besides my work career as a game designer, I also am teacher at Scholastica in Košice, which is universities in Czech Republic, and I prepare some materials for other teachers at Suknarka, Anomalia, and other companies. So let's dive into it. So design your mechanics. This is MDA framework, which was made by Marc LeBlanc, and it's like really basic idea how to approach game design in terms of understanding how it's working between designer and player. At the beginning, you have a designer, which in ideal case is us, and we created something called mechanics, which is like set of rules or systems that will at the end create the whole game. Together, those mechanics combine create some kind of dynamics, which is like interaction between different mechanics, and it will create opportunities to for players to interact in different ways. And for player, it creates something called aesthetics, which is like some kind of emotion, feelings, or like story that is supported or created by those kind of things combined together. And as a designer, we can only work with mechanics, but as a player, we at the end have only feeling uh, that create that by aesthetics. And to work as a good game designer, you must know how to influence your mechanics to create some kind of aesthetics at the end. So, how to do it? Like this is one of the several ways to do it, but for me, it will this guide me a lot, and this kind of way is to like design your experience at the beginning and like focus on something, focus on some creation and some feeling that you want to invoke in your player. Um, to do it, you first want to analyze what experience or feeling you want to achieve in your game, and after that, you will break it in the several emotions or feelings and and etc. And every decision that you made during your gameplay process should support these ideas. For example, when we created Chicken Empire or we worked on Chicken Empire, we wanted to do something cozy, non-violent, and something you can play over tea with a family, and you have just relaxed time. To do it, we decide to have a non-violent game, and in our world, the chickens are the bad guys, and they are dumb, but they have like great army. And you are a weasel, which is like lonely wolf that is sneaking around. And to support the idea of chickens are the bad guys that have like big powers. They have these kind of big cone of visions that help them get around and attack you if they see you. And if they see you, they will attack you next turn because it's done by strategy, and you are really powerless against them if they see you. So at the beginning, just get the feeling you want to achieve, and at the end, try to create mechanics around it to support it and to to show the feeling in the player or create feeling in the player. In your process, these will be the most important questions you will be asking like during the whole gameplay design process. And it's how do we communicate this and what will it do to the game? How do we communicate this mean when you are doing some decision in your game, some gameplay decision, you should be asking yourself what will how it influence feeling of that game, or what situation or opportunities it will create for players, and this help you guide your decision towards the experience that you set at the beginning. And the second question is what it will do. So it's you when you have like two ways to resolve some problem, to resolve some situation in your game, you should ask yourself, okay, what those decisions do for the player and how they should probably feel after uh, implementing this mechanics again, this mechanics. For example, if you want to create some kind of survivor game, you can ask yourself, okay, and how many ammo will be there? Like you will have infinite ammo, and or you should like search every pocket in the game for getting few of them, and that's this is like really basic situation where like you can see that probably you should go with the searching pockets, and but there is like several situations, and you will get in those situations when you must decide in those few mechanics, and there will be not that obvious question answer, sorry. And in that case, you may want to test the result of that different decisions that you can make. Okay, so design your game from the mechanics. Start with one simple mechanics and build the whole game around it. Every decision that you are doing during your process should support this core mechanics, and it can be like, for example, for Mario, it's movement and jumping, and for Call of Duty, it's running and shooting. But these core mechanics should be in the center of your creating process whole time. It will give player like really easy thing to understand and to learn, and also it will give you opportunity to work on something, and it will guide you through your gameplay process or gameplay design process. Okay, the second step in your creating process should be add variety or create dynamics, which means that you will create more mechanics. And this is important to think about it uh, slowly. Like when you introduce new mechanics to player, you want to give them slow new inputs to learn, because otherwise you will overwhelm them, and you really don't want to uh, create something that will frustrate the players at the beginning. Uh, to do it, just create few other mechanics and think about how they influence each other in like different ways. For example, in a portal game, you have a portal which is core mechanics. You're running in portals and you are creating them to like get to new places. And the second mechanic is that you have some momentum in flying or in your air time, and you can build it and use it to get to new places. So this is the second mechanics. Or in some turn-based combat games, you have like different elements. For example, fire that can burn player like every turn, and to combine it, you can add another mechanics that is, for example, wind, and wind can spread the fire to other players. So when you are creating those mechanics, think about different ways how they can interact with each other, and basically, it's at the end you can create like three mechanics if you just make two. If we talk, for example, about the fire and the wind in turn-based combat. So this should be like really meaningful choices for you to create mechanics that will create interesting dynamics. And also, if you are creating new mechanics, it should be like meaningful choices for players. So don't create mechanics that are feeling the same. There must be like different ways to interact with them, and there must be like really separate things to do. Okay, so this is more about scaling difficulty and complexity. Don't I talked about it on previous slide, but yeah, don't overthink it. Like this here is two examples of controllers, because nowadays, if you want to get in the game, you will probably get something like PlayStation 4 controller, and there's like, I don't know, 25 different buttons or ways to interact, and it's really overwhelming for new players. And on the other side, there is Nintendo Entertainment System, a controller which have like 8 different buttons, and it's really easy to get into the game. And you should be thinking about your game in the terms of those. Like you might at the beginning want to try introduce something like NES controller, and after a while building up to the PlayStation controller whole potential. Uh, Also, when you are trying to introduce new mechanic, uh, try to introduce it without wall of text. Like this is the thing that's normally known between designers. Uh, Players will not read your text description of the mechanics. They will just try it, and if they don't understand what's going on, they will quit it, don't use it, or quit the whole game if they get frustrated. So best tutorial is in the game. Like for example, when I design some games for game jams or some smaller game jams, I'm normally like force players to be like in one small room where they can only interact with one mechanic, and if they resolve it, they will be let in the whole game, because it's easy to like know that you must do one thing and you must figure it out. But if you let them in the game and give them text, they will not read it. They will try to interact different ways in the world, and they will get frustrated. So force these kind of tutorials in the game. Just lock your players in some room or some small area and force them to resolve the situation with mechanics that you want them to learn. Okay, so the next part for successful mechanics or successful mechanics design is to give player clear feedback. And what does it mean? If the player views some kind of action, some kind of move, it at the beginning will be pressing the button. If the player presses some button, you must give them instant feedback what they did and if they did it wrong or right. Uh, what does it mean? It can mean like some audio response to their action, but most of the time it's visual, and in that terms it can be animation, particle effect, or screen shake, and also it most of the time will be some mechanical response from the game. It can be combo or chance sorry uh, different state of uh, fight fight scene, or it can unlock new opportunities for a player. So okay, in the game, for example, in Assassin's Creed, where you attacked enemy by pressing the button, you can clearly see the sword swing in your game, and you want to like clearly communicate to the player if they hit the enemy or not by animation, particular effects, or plot, or something. And this is like really important to do because you must make feeling uh, that player is in control uh, during whole game playthrough. Sorry, uh, because it's really frustrating when you are doing some action but you don't get clear response for your action. So, and there is like several steps in it. First is what we talked about. It's like visuals, audio, and the second is the mechanics progression. For example, like the enemy will get their HP down uh, for some uh, for some amount and things like that. So have a clear feedback for every action, for every player's decision. Also, in this context, you want to design uh, most of the uh, most of the mechanics around the right decisions because you want to motivate player to uh, to do good decision during your playthrough. Okay. Uh, what does it mean? That means that when you are uh, doing something as Vampire Survivor, you really don't want to create like 20 or 30 ways to die. Like, for example, you can get into fire, you will get struck with arrow, or you can be like smashed with a sword. If you design many ways to die, you will encourage players to die more to discover those different death animations, and you will waste your time for something you don't want the players to do. So focus on something that's important, and in the something like Vampire Survivor, focus your time mostly on creating new abilities, new mechanics around combat, and new particle effects, and etc. So at the end, create something that's meaningful and that you want to encourage player to do, and don't overcomplicate the mechanics that you don't want the player to interact with. And one of the most important things is to play test and iterate. So you probably, when if you created some games already, you know that you will not doing it right and you are doing it late in the process. So this is like really common, and it's like really normal to don't have time on it and do it late in the process of creating game. But you probably know that it's not right, and you will not get answers soon enough uh, to uh, you change your mechanics for doing it better, for like implementing the feedback from players. And to do it, the reason is that on the paper you really can't know what is fun. You can't really like design on the paper and know if the player interactions will be meaningful and if they enjoy it. It's like if it would be possible on the paper, big companies like Warhorse wouldn't have like big Q&A department, and this like biggest department in our company currently. So yeah, this is the answer that you really can't do it on paper correctly. Um, and the second reason is you really most of the time don't know what you are doing. There is a mist around the player mechanics and then dynamics, so combination of mechanics, and you really you never know what can happen during your game when you don't test it. So test it early in best way, test the core mechanics first, and after that add some new mechanics around it to create new dynamics and know if the game is fun and the mechanics on its own is fun. When you try to test it, there's like different ways to approach it, and this is one that you can implement only if you don't have enough time. It's to like brainstorm. Sorry, I lost my notes. To brainstorm your idea at the beginning. After that, get into the design, playtest it, evaluate it, implement the changes, and do it again. And after that, finish the mechanics and go on. This is really a way of iterating only if you don't have enough time. For example, we made some games in 14 days for some companies, and we must be really quick in our development. But most of the time, you want to do it like this. And it's when you are brainstorming at the beginning and you have like different ways to go, like we talked about at the beginning, there's like different decisions that you can make in your process, and they will somehow influence your game. So you want to probably design those, or at least like think about them further and think about what they can achieve in your game, what feeling they will invoke in your player. Playtest them separately. After that, evaluate it and implement new version of them in the game. And again, get back to brainstorm and move it further. In bigger company like us, we are doing it in the whole gameplay design process. Like for several years, we are still trying to get it better. And from the first minute of creating those designs until the release and post-release process, we are still fixing things, and it's about like constant playing your game and your mechanics and testing them separately. Okay, there is something that's called loop, and loop is way of interaction with the game in loops in different scenarios where the player interact with game. It's at the beginning, it's called action. It's mostly something that player do, and it's pressing a button for simplicity. For that, you must get those clear feedback that will give you clear response what you are doing and move you forward to learn the game mechanics. After that, the player wants to progress. So there is the health point that will be taken down from enemy, or you can, for example, harvest some plants or something. But to do it fun, you must increase the difficulty, because otherwise you can do cozy game where you harvest only plants and build buildings, but still you want to introduce new mechanics to make it interesting. And player will be stuck in those loops during your whole playthrough. Okay, why it's important to know those things that the player is in those loops. The reason is that you are designing those loops and you must be thinking about them in your creative process. Uh, when you are designing some kind of mechanics, also think about how the loops will be going. And like there's several loops in your game, and they are interconnected with each other, and they are built upon each other. For example, if you take open world RPG, you starting with a loop which is like hitting the enemy with the sword. It's like pressing button and hitting enemy. After that, there's bigger loop which is like fighting with enemy. Bigger loop is fighting with a group of enemies. Bigger loop is fighting in the dungeon. Bigger loop is like finishing quest where you must kill the enemies in the dungeon. And the biggest loop can be like uh, daily schedule of the player where you like go to sleep, heal yourself, cook some meal, and get the quest. And you should really think about those separately and design them meaningfully to have a player like want to be in them and interact with them in different ways and have a feeling of accomplishment when they finish the loop. The basic of creating loop is simplicity. You want to create something that is really easy to learn and will guide the player to the next step. So one of the most frustrating thing in the game is when the player don't know what to do next. So there is like icons, there is like a list of tasks, what to do, like the next steps in your game when you like get into it after, for example, month or something. And this is also reason why you want to do it simple, because a player will not interact with it like if you are doing some long running game for 10 plus hours. There will be players that will interact with it like after months or weeks, so they will most of the time forget like half of the controls or something. Again, uh, have a clear feedback for your action in the game loop. Like you must when you're doing something right or wrong, there must be like some response in dialogue and increase the challenge. You want to create like different kind of enemies, for example, that will increase the opportunities to player to interact with the loop, interact with different mechanics and different dynamics together to make them feel that they are better in it and they have more choices to do during they playthrough as they get in new gear, get in new opportunities because they have new mechanics that is unlocked. They have like new ways that they learn how to interact with the world. Yeah, and that's one. Probably it's our time. I just want to the end say that the great mechanics or the dynamics between few mechanics is when you create something that player feel that they grew with the game, that they did something that was not supposed to do, and it's easy to do it. For example, in card game where you combine few cards together to create like really big effects, but we want to design it on purpose. We really want to let players to have a feel that they broke our game, but we will sit in the corner and smile because it's really should do, and they will like feel the emotion of like experience something new, something that they discover. So yeah, that was few ideas about how to create game mechanics, and that's our time. So if you have a question, I will be really glad, uh, and I I'm willing to answer.
Yes, thank you very much. So our students prepared some questions for you. The first question will put the student of the first class of game design, Jeremieva Viera.
Hi, I just wanted to ask for some examples of the games where MDA framework and this loops doesn't working, and there's it works. Like maybe you have some examples.
Sorry, can you repeat that, or can somebody repeat that?
Yes, I'm asking for some examples of the games where MDA framework works well and where it doesn't work.
Yeah, all right. Oh, okay. It will be hard one. I didn't prepare for that. Well, I think the when I'm thinking about a good game in NBA, I most of the time thinking about how it's called. It's Metro series, where, for example, when you are interacting with map, you are the map is taken out from your backpack, and it's like the game. It's not stopped. The map is just shown in your face, and you don't see most of your normal vision. There is just like corners, and something can attack you during that that moment when you are checking where to go. And also there is like several other mechanics, like for example that your gas mask can be broken during the fight, and you must like somehow managing your masks. And there is also mechanics that I told you about getting only few ammo. So I think the NBA is really working in that game really well, and it's really good good example for different reasons. And there will be like more mechanics that are working with that. And yeah, the second part, like where it's not working, it's really hard. And but for me, it's not working in the newest Assassin's Creed, because it's really not uh, it's not great feeling that you are assassin, because there is like too much combat mechanics that are created around RPG and etc. But there is fewer and fewer mechanics that allow player to interact in stealthy way, which was the original idea behind the whole lore of Assassin's Creed, that you are in the shadows and you are unseen. So yeah, I think this is the few examples for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next question, Lucia Pokrilkova.
Hello, thank you very much for the presentation. I really liked it. Maybe I'd like to ask, in your professional career, what was the most difficult assignment you ever had to deal with, and how did you handle it?
If I understand it correctly, what was my like most
The most
difficult
difficult assignment you ever had to work on?
assignment? Is it
Yeah,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I'm like most of the time I designed mechanics in my own studio for KC2 in Warhorse. I get into the process later in the game process, so I wasn't there from the beginning. Uh, but my assignment was most of the time like working with survival mechanics, like food and alcohol and and level design. And yeah, I was balancing alcohol in KCD. And uh, well, to be honest, I can't think about anything from the KCD that was really hard to balance. But yeah, maybe the balancing of the tables, because the Excel spreadsheets, because you really don't know how it's working there, and I didn't know either. But most of the time, when I'm working with uh, with those balancing things, I just get information about some output that players, for example, don't need eat that much that we want to, and I must balance the whole table of like different foods to like achieve that. From at the beginning, I try to like change the separate numbers in those food sources. And at the end, I figured out that after like talking to my colleague Martina Fuskova, that the better way to deal with it is to just create some kind of mathematical way to like calculate it automatically from like different stats. For example, like how much food do you get from different kind of foods, how much time it will take to like to to get uh, to sorry I lost my word to how much time it will take to digest, and how rare is it in the game. So at the end, there is like really long line of code in my Excel sheet that will calculate it appropriately and set the numbers correctly without my interference. And I'm only changing like some kind of numbers that will increase it or decrease it automatically. So I hope that it answers somehow your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And the last question will put student from Czech Republic, Ondřej Formanek.
Hi, great to hear from you again. It's been a while. So, I guess my question is, you were talking about the iteration process and needing to have some sort of loops where you iteratively uh, get the game to a better state. Um, how does one make these iterations faster and like uh, gets as far as they can uh, to the goal of creating like the best game they can possibly do?
Okay. Um, Thank you. I think the really important thing is to do it early in your process, like really early when you are starting to design your game. I see it in my classes that students like don't play the game until second half of the semester if they like semester to create the game, and it's really late to do it. So do it like really early, and I think that you should, as a game designer, you should get used to it to like design it in the early stage. For example, if you have like only movement, just like test the movement. Like movement is the same, but you will get used to testing different and small parts of the game. Uh, so that's the one thing. Do it early. Prepare like different code for it. For example, I have a student that is creating a game where it's something that must be like generated by code, and I told him to create some scenario that that will help me to do it earlier than when he gets to implementing the code, or you can do it without coding. For example, you can read some kind of scenario from the paper in his case, but otherwise you can think about other ways to do it without coding. So, for example, if you have like time limit for your game, there can be like game designer sitting next to the player and just have a stopwatch on his phone, and like told him, okay, you have like 5 minutes until the end of this round. So there's like different way that can take less coding to do. So think about those ways. And also, like, the one way is to just like have a separate person to do most of the tests. And maybe the next thing that I'm thinking about is like you should have the clear schedule for your testing and for your whole creative process. And to do that, you probably want to like implement the testing session with the players to like every 1 month, and to motivate your testers to like get to your testing session. I think you should bring your pizza and free beer and create some cozy room and let them test in that room where you give them the free food, and they will get there. It will be like really great time, and it will not feel like work for you and for them. Yeah, so that's my answers.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Your presentation finished. I hope that in future we'll see in person here in Bratislava. So when there will come time, so we will try to invite you for personal lecture for other students. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if any of the students want to somehow interact with me, just write me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and everywhere you can like get my contact. I will answer you. So have a nice other presentation and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, welcome Paulina from Munich.
Hi.
Yes,
Hello.
yes, I can hear you. So, welcome on
Hi.
our conference. I want to say that we met last time in China. That was a very, very good experience for me. And I attended your presentation for, I don't know, there was maybe 100 schools all over the world, and it was amazing experience with your presentation. So try introduce you and try to tell something also about experience in China, and try to make shorter this presentation as you had in China.
Yeah, I'm trying my best. um, okay, so I'm Pauline Leininger. I'm a researcher of AI in media production at the University of Television and Film Munich. And yeah, as you said, we met in China, and there was a conference all about AI in film schools. And actually, there is not that much being done about AI yet. So I'm really glad to be part of one of the first AI labs at a film school at the HFF Munich. Yeah, to start into my topic, actually, I'm starting to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it in a second. Um, yeah, my computer is kind of slow right now. Sorry, I'm clicking the share button, but nothing is happening. 1 second. Let me try again.
Maybe you have to restart Teams. Maybe it will help.
Let me see if I can share just a window. It's not recognizing. Oh, okay, maybe.
Okay, this works, I think,
Very good.
but I'm not sure if audio will work. 1 second, sorry.
You had to check the sound in this sharing.
Yeah, I know, but nothing is happening if I click it. Okay, maybe I'll just improvise because I just need sound for one clip. Yeah. It worked before. 1 second. Yeah, the button. I can't check the button, unfortunately.
It's probably in settings, so you have to. I don't know if you need really
Yeah.
sound, if you can improvise it.
I know I have the window with the settings in front of me, and I clicked share system audio, but if I click the share button, nothing is happening. Okay, I just try to do it without. Okay. I hope you can see my PowerPoint.
Yes, we can see it.
We're seeing
Okay.
Teams.
No, not PowerPoint. We see just Teams, so you have to change window which you will share.
Okay. I know where to do it, but it's not working. So sorry. Okay, I think now it's working.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, okay, to get you back into the topic, actually, what inspired my research focus was this quote by VFX supervisor Ben Grossman. He said, "If you're trying to use virtual production as a tool to empower fewer people to do more amazing things, then let's start removing all the unnecessary complications, and we can do that with AI. So you can walk into an empty room and say, give me a 1940s era Western frontier town, and oh, let's make it winter." And he's completely right. You can actually do that with AI now, like I did here. So the topic of my presentation today is AI-supported 3D pre-visualizations for movies for enhancing virtual production workflows. Just a little bit more about my background. I have a background in human-computer interaction. And if you don't know what that means, it's basically about the study of how people interact with technology and focused on designing intuitive, user-friendly systems that combines technical expertise with an understanding of human behavior to create seamless and hopefully enjoyable experiences. So it's a background in programming and also in design and understanding people. And I think that's really important when we work with AI tools, because there are lots of AI tools out there, but we want to understand how they can actually improve human creativity and creative processes. And I think this quote by Larry Page underlines it really well. So technology should do the hard work so people can do the things that make them the happiest. A little bit more about our AI lab. So we do teaching and working with students as well as academic research and development. So we do overview lectures for all students to teach them about AI, but also specialized seminars, especially with VFX students, and interdisciplinary work with IT students. We also work on student projects and just provide them with the AI tools they need. We actually have a AI tool collection on our website, which you can have a look at if you scan this QR code. For research, we do a lot on AI and ownership. We do AI-supported accessible media like sign language and easy language avatars, music visualizations for the deaf, and of course AI in virtual production, which is my focus, and where I will show you a tool in Visualizer that we developed. So now let's give the word to Academy Award winner Ben Grossman to talk more a bit about AI.
Now, we've been using technology to solve storytelling problems for many decades. You can think about it. Anytime you see a dinosaur moving in a movie, there aren't any of those around. So that's where computer graphics comes in. But often the expense and the headache and the challenge of creating very complex computer graphics can be overwhelming, and it makes those techniques very inaccessible to many filmmakers who just can't afford the cost that it takes and the many hundreds of thousands of hours of labor that it takes to create and craft these massive spectacles. Tsunamis taking the cities, interstellar travel. These things are very expensive to create on a computer screen. But in recent years, we've been using CD and ML, or computer vision and machine learning, to enable whole new categories of things that we hadn't been able to do before in a much more cost-effective way. Now, you can think about it broadly as fitting into two categories. One, it allows you to create things that you never could have created before. They were just impossible or economically unscalable. Or you can use it to optimize and make more efficient things that we have already been doing, so that the artists who have been creating those things are freed up to do bigger and better challenges. Now, in the film business, we've done those things for many years, but in relatively small ways, like using deep fakes to either age or de-age an actor so that they can fit into multiple time periods in a story, or to fix a performance retarget from having a human drive another creature's performance, for example, or other little aspects of visual effects around integrating computer graphics into live action footage. There are many benefits and challenges in the application of artificial intelligence in the filmmaking. Some of the benefits are it could potentially democratize filmmaking, make it easier for smaller groups of people, even children, to tell entire stories that have been visualized that no one could have created anymore. It certainly might have cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but now are possible with a small team of people on a laptop. It also allows us to potentially imagine new and original and unexpected viewpoints from a more diverse group of filmmakers and storytellers.
Okay, so the main takeaway I want you to remember is what I'm focusing on in this is that the fact that AI can democratize filmmaking, so it can make tools and concepts available to people who would have no access to it otherwise, and what would be reserved to very big productions and can be done in small teams now. And I think that's really cool, especially for small film school productions.
Now,
So going to the outline of my talk, so it's about virtual production, but I will recap the concept really quick, even though you might already be familiar with it. Then I will talk about conceptual approaches to AI-mediated 3D generation, and especially environment generation, object generation, and scene reconstruction. Then I will show you the prototype and visualizer that we developed. And before concluding, I will give a small analysis of upcoming features or future directions that could be interesting in the future. So about virtual production. According to a definition by the VES, or the American Society of Cinematographers, it uses technology to join the digital world with the physical world in real time. It enables filmmakers to interact with the digital process in the same way they interact with live action production. So it's not actually one singular thing, it's a whole paradigm shift and a whole new concept from a very linear production pipeline where everything needs to be finished in order for the next step to work, to a much more iterative and intertwined process where assets can be changed on set and can be prepared in advance. And yeah, it's just more dynamic and allows for much more creative freedom. You might think of in-camera visual effects and LED walls synonymously with virtual production, like on The Mandalorian, where you use a game engine to show a digital environment on a screen and use camera tracking and to have the perspective match and have shoes like that, which allow for much more immersion and effects that wouldn't be possible with a green screen alone. But actually, virtual production is much more. So there's the whole concept of visualization, which is a great part of it, and which I am focusing on, especially Previs, which uses 3D animations to cheaply and very roughly explore lighting, camera angles, and artistic choices with early visual and audio mockups. So for now talking about AI, why should we use 3D workflows? If you've worked with AI, for example, Midjourney or Runway, those have quite cool results already. They are very high fidelity, but one big problem is that we don't have much control over it. It's getting better with character consistency, but still, if you want to have a very cohesive scene or even the whole film, it's really, really hard to achieve that. And it's very counterintuitive to the actual previous workflow where you work in 3D environments. So we actually wanted to translate this established previous process in VFX to AI. And that's why I'm focusing on 3D generation with AI. Now, first starting with environments, there's very roughly two approaches. So you can have a completely generative approach where you prompt just any world you want to have and it generates the world or an object. But there's also something that's AI driven, that's what I call database approaches, where you reconstruct existing scenes from 2D or 3D data in, for example, volumetric renderings or geometric reconstruction. And there's more and more hybrid approaches coming up between the two. So a very basic example that, for example, Blockade Labs, the tool I'm showing you later, uses is this one. So you start out with a 360-degree generated image. You map it onto a sphere, and then you use a depth map to distort this sphere to add some dimensions. And you can actually step into the sphere and interact with this world. So this can be done with Blockade Labs. You might know this tool. You can prompt the world you want to create. You can choose different styles. You can pivot it forward. Yeah, so you can create all kinds of things. You can even do some sketching to outline the things you want to create. Okay, sorry, I should have just let it play. Yeah, that's what I mentioned. You can give the AI some guiding in sketching the world you want to create, and would use that to generate a new world. And what it can also do is it can generate this distorted mesh sphere from it, which you can download as a 3D asset and import it to any 3D software you want, or even maybe a game, and you can work with it further. So this is the depth functionality from it. Sorry. In a more basic way, you can do it with just an image. So you can distort just an image if you don't need a 360-degree environment. You can add some dimensions on an image as well. And another approach you can take is you can actually model a very rough outline of the environment you want. And you can use the depth path and the outline path as guidelines for your image generation, and you can generate different textures, and you can try out lots of different types of environment for your rough model in an easy way by just projecting this texture onto your mesh. For object generation, there's also quite a few exciting tools already out there you can use in your browser. So Rodin, Meshy, Triple, you can just prompt any object you want, or you can input an image and it will generate a rough mesh. And what's also really cool is there's some open source software available like Canyon 3D and Trellis that you can run locally on your PC if you have a decent GPU. And it's basically completely free this way, because all the other tools, they have a credit system and you have to pay a monthly subscription. I really like this comparison made by Andrew Price. we compared all kinds of 3D object generation tools in different scenarios and with different textures. And you can see most of the results are already quite usable if you want to do some rough mockups. Just in, for example, the trees, there's some difficulty in intricate details, but I think that will get better soon as well. Now let's go to scene reconstruction. Those are two very rough reconstructions I made in Luma AI on my phone. And you can see it's not perfect, but it shows the idea that I can have this scan and then I can navigate freely and calculate camera paths inside this environment. You might know scene reconstruction already, so there's photogrammetry is a really established approach for it. And it's really good because it can capture very intricate details and make high quality geometry, but there's some downsides to it. So it can't react to changing lighting conditions. So basically shadows are baked into the texture. And there's also no possibility of having transparency and reflections, and it's very compute intensive. On the other side, there's new volumetric rendering approaches like NURBS or neural radiance fields and Gaussian splatting that can take all these things into consideration. You can have transparency and you can have reflections, and I think that's a really cool approach. But still, there's some downsides, like you don't have a mesh, you have just a volumetric representation. It's really hard to edit those things and retexture them or relight them. And there's some artifacts, but we can see where it goes in the future. Here's again a side-by-side comparison of the car. On the left, it's the Gaussian splatting. On the right, it's the photogrammetry. Here's a different approach by a user on LinkedIn who did some very high quality reconstructions with some special hardware, and there the artifacts are not that noticeable anymore. I think the environment looks quite real, and it gives us an idea of where this could go. So there's some more scenes that look quite realistic. So what you need to actually make those reconstructions yourself. So for very basic ones, you can use your phone, and there's lots of apps out there like Luma AI, Scanniverse, Polycam can do that, and all the processing of this is done in the cloud, and you don't need to worry about it yourself. If you want to use it for actual production and have some high quality scans, there's some providers for that as well. And if you use special scanners with 360-degree cameras and that also have LiDAR support, you can get some really good results, like the ones by experts. Or if you want to have more control of the training itself, and that's what you're into, you can train your own NURBS with NURBS Studio and input own videos and image data into there. All of them can be rendered and processed with tools like Unreal Engine, and where you can explore and interact with those environments yourself and set up some camera moves. And to take it a step further, there's even approaches to altering those scans and works with prompts in the process of training. Okay, now I'm going to show you the prototype we developed. You can have a look at the website if you want more information. But yeah, I just made a quick demo. But it's basically for the purpose of showing students what's possible with AI. And I prepared some sample environments. This one is a Blockade Labs environment. And it's basically an interactive viewer where you can walk around like in a game. You can annotate your scene with notes. You can place different character presets in different poses. and move them around and just stage some small scenes. It's still in the prototyping phase, but it's just to prove the concept and make those things accessible to students who don't have experience with 3D. So, of course, VFX students can do that in 3D software, but directing students or producing students wouldn't be able to do that. So then you can use a previous camera where you can set up some camera parameters and save a scene. You can do some image-to-image generation where you can alter that scene with a prompt. So there's stable diffusion running in the background and applying it with a control net to the shot you just created. So again, this is just for demonstration. It's not a very strong model, but it's just to prove the concept. And you can take it a step further and take the scene you created and create an animatic from it via image to video generation with the Luma Dream Machine API. Yeah, I just have a couple of examples of that. You can also take the reimagined image-to-image generated scene and animate that. Yeah, as you probably know from video generation, it's not perfect yet, but it's getting better every day. Yeah. The next one is just showing you quickly that there's also the possibility, of taking notes in 3D space and adjusting the camera speed and small things like that. And then I'm showing you that the same works also with Gaussian splats. So this is a Gaussian splat scene. It's a reconstruction of a real scene. It's just an asset I downloaded, and you can even place characters that are 3D objects in there, and there's actually occlusion, and you can combine those two things. Okay, so I think I already talked about most of the features and how it's set up, so I don't think I need to get into this much more. What I want to talk about is some interesting future directions that are not quite applicable yet, but that could be really interesting to look out for. So the first thing is the whole concept of what's called spatial intelligence or world models. So a world model is like a mental map that an eye builds to understand how the world works, even when it can't see everything directly. So just like you can imagine what's behind a closed door or predict what happens when we drop a glass, AI uses this world model to guess, plan, and make decisions. And spatial intelligence is how AI understands space and objects and where things are, how they move, and how they relate to each other. And there's some cool intelligent agents that make use of those concepts, like Oasis by Descartes, World Labs, Meta Reality Labs, and Stability AI's dynamic virtual camera. And I'll just show you some quick examples. Maybe you've heard of Oasis. It's also called the Minecraft AI. So it's Minecraft completely generated by AI in real time. So there's no game engine, nothing, no game code running in the background. It's all AI in real time. And I'm not saying that's where it's going or that's the best use case for it, but it's just quite astonishing that AI is able to do that and allow for this interaction and exploration in real time. And it could be quite interesting for movies as well. One problem is that the AI has about 10 seconds of consistency or memory, what I would call it. So after 10 seconds, it kind of forgets what the environment around it was supposed to look like and starts hallucinating things. And it's really not usable for longer things. But yeah, again, with AI, things are progressing very fast. There's Reality Labs by Meta. So you just input an image and it just imagines the whole world around it and actually does a 3D reconstruction of that or a volumetric rendering of that. Similar with stability AIs, stable virtual camera, you just input an image and you can define any camera path you would like, and it has an understanding of that space and can reconstruct what that path would look like. A final concept I would like to show you is some progress in AI animation or text mocap. So there's a card wheel which has some really cool concepts of just prompting any movement or animation you want for character animation, and it can create the motion capture for it. And you can actually integrate that into your usual workflows. So you can just download and edit these animations. They are fully rigged, and you can integrate them into your own tools and adapt them if you want. But it saves a lot of time and work. TripoAR, which I mentioned earlier for 3D generation, already has the character rig feature integrated. So if you generate a character, it will automatically rig it, and you can select some preset animations for it, or you can take the rig and animate the character yourself. So what I wanted to show you is there is actually already potential to have the whole previous pipeline completely supported with AI, from world generation to 3D asset and character generation, and even character animation, camera animation, or you could do that part manually in your game engine or 3D software, and you can even do style transfer to experiment with that a bit more. So that's basically it from my side. Feel free to ask some questions, or if you have any questions later, you can contact me on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much for very actual presentation. We prepared for you questions, or our students prepared questions for you. And the first question will put Grejtáková. Anna?
Hi, so I have a question, and it's about how do you feel about the ethicality of it, like the ethics of it all, because it was trained on other people's models and animations and stuff, and it wasn't legal from what I know
Yeah.
on the internet.
Yeah, I think ethics is a big question, and I think it's a whole research topic in its own right. And I think we need to solve that definitely in a better way than it's actually done right now. There are some companies and there's some concepts for doing fair AI models where artists are actually compensated for what they input, and if people use actually their input to generate, they will have they will get compensated for that. And I think you shouldn't use it for your final product, but just helps a lot in ideation for right now. And I think it's definitely a parallel research topic that is explored right now, and companies are working on it. And I think in order to use it, even for like animation companies, they could train their own models internally with their own data and use it for their productions. But I'm definitely aware of this problem, and it shouldn't be exploited.
Yes, I want to mention that in China we had a great lecture from Brussels, and the chief, she was Swedish. So these questions are resolving now in this moment on the highest level. Yeah? So it means that it's not question of us, it's questions of rules that will be decided on the level of Europe. And I want to tell that Europe is leader now in this moment in comparison with America or China or whoever. Yeah? So I think that it is very good, I think, a very ethic future for us in artificial intelligence. next question will put Vetlitska Olena.
Hi. So, my question is, while building this AI, were there any like problems and issues with operating it, and how was the process itself? Like, can you please tell a little bit more about that?
Mhm. So most of the tools I showed are quite easy to operate because they are web tools. You can use in your web browser, uh, like um, like the paid labs or even Luma AI is quite easy to generate. But putting it all together into Unreal Engine could be quite challenging. So if, for example, if you want to generate everything directly from the engine, you need tools that offer API access, and you can generate them directly into the engine. And there's different file formats that might not be supported. So putting together a pipeline that works all in one is still a bit challenging, especially for scene reconstructions like nerves or Gaussian splats. There's no um, there's no official file format for them yet. So Gaussian splats are quite often just point clouds or PLI files, but all the providers have kind of their own formatting, and being able to use what is possible in theory in your game engine is still a bit challenging.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And last question will put Sara Kadlec-Sajova.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I really enjoyed it. What do you think are the pros and cons of using AI for creating scenes in virtual production?
I think the pros is just the speed. Um, you can and the customization. So I don't know if you have experience in previs. I don't have. I just know it in theory. So usually you have to look for assets that kind of match what you imagine, and you still have a lot of manual labor putting it all together, or you even have to create assets yourself. With AI, you can just create images of what you want and turn it into 3D objects, and you can that way create much more easily what you had in mind. And also, it's accessible to people in productions who don't have VFX expertise. So, of course, I know that VFX expertise is in any case preferable to AI, but some productions, like independent productions or um, just hobby filmmakers, don't have access to VFX people, and with AI, they can themselves do those kind of things if they need them. So I think that's a big con, that it's very accessible to people who wouldn't be able to do those kind of things otherwise.
I have a question.
Yes, we have more questions.
Thank you. So my question is, we can see like the AI is getting more and more complex tasks, and could be eventually replacing individual artists. So I would like to ask if you have some advice for us to stay relevant on the market.
Yeah, I think human artists will always be relevant because AI can do everything that humans can. And it's just, I think it's important to be on top of the game and to understand what AI can do. And actually, that way you can leverage integrate it into your own work process, and it can enhance your own speed. It can enhance certain things that you might not like doing. So maybe you don't like reading, and if AI can do that, it can just speed up the process and make things easier for you. But it's still the human artist to put it all together, and especially in professional contexts, AI is still not very it's still not good enough to replace human artists, and I think it hopefully never will.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with your these thoughts. So somebody else will want to put question. Thank you very much, Paulina. So I like your presentation very much. In future, maybe if we will have a link on your main presentation that was longer, so I would like to show this longer version for our students. And I wish you a lot of successes in your research, and thank you very much. So, next presentation will have two presenters, Rian Lely and Oliver Rotter. Please, can you switch camera? Yes, Oliver is here. Yes, and I hope Rian Lely is here too. Yes, hello, try. Our theme is CG Spectrum College of Digital Arts. So I interested in very much. So Patu, you can explain all philosophy and all ideas around the school. And the main theme is how to break and stay in the game industry. The philosophy of CG Spectrum. Yes. So please try to ask something that is for you the most important and the most interesting. So you have your time, maybe 50 minutes, and then questions and answers.
How much time do you set now we have for the moment? Just because I see we're running a bit late.
Together you have 1 hour, yes, but 50 minutes it means maybe for presentation and 10 minutes for questions and answers.
Yeah. I would have said like a little bit we structure in a way that we do first a talk and then we do like the Q&A afterwards. So we have a seamless talk. I do my presentation, then we hand it off to Ryan, and then every question afterwards. Does it sound fair a little bit?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. All right. And thank you very much. Let's kick it off, Ryan. Huh? Yes, let's do. Okay, all right. Yeah. You might hear it. Ryan is from the UK, so he has this wonderful accent. From Austria, not Australia, so we don't have kangaroos here. But as you can hear, so the closest two cities, so my heart goes out to the other closest, European capital, Bratislava. So Vienna, Bratislava love, going out there. I couldn't make it unfortunately today. Always love to go to Bratislava, but today I have to join remotely. And nevertheless, thank you very much for the invitation, Ludovic. We're happy to be here and hold this presentation. And with that said, we prepared for you a talk about our philosophy to give you a little bit closer look into that. But I think because it's currently fitting with the zeitgeist of our current industry, because more than ever, especially young people, but in general, like in industry, think about ourselves, where do we heading? And I really like that we now had before was a talk about AI, because this is also one of the big topics of our time right now. And we see a lot of changes. But beside also all the changes, there is always change in our industry. If you think about that, last 20, 30 years, there is a lot of change going on. And already since the 80s to 90s, when you think about games and movies. And that's also like where our school started. So our school started over a decade ago by veterans in the industry that exactly ask themselves those questions and like, okay, how do we keep up with the changes? How do we train the next generation? And how do we bring closer together what people learn in schools on how to get into the industry, how to break there in the industry, and also how to be successful long term. And I think we see these questions coming up more and more, especially over the last few years, where things are a little bit more like, I would say a mix of everything, and we see ups and downs, lots of industry shifts and changes. And that's why I thought like, hey, let's talk about this the best way. And in that regard, let me quickly, before going into deeper, let me introduce our school a bit more, and also who am I? And then afterwards, we will hand it over to Ryan. So I will handle a little bit more about my introduction of our school.
and the core philosophy about that. And then I will hand it over in the next 15 minutes then to Ryan, which will go a little bit deeper because he's one of our geniuses of constructing our game design partner. Yeah, I'm happy you're up, Ryan. You see, you don't have to under deliver now. No, you have to over deliver as usual.
Right.
It's one of our core aspects we always like to do, on the top of our game. And that's also one of the reasons why we brought in Ryan. Some of you might know him because he's one of our superstars mentors, because he's very popular not only on YouTube but in general in the games community, because he's always trying to improve, and always trying to be on top of the game, because changes, as just circling back to what I said before, this is one of the things that is constant in our industry. And it's also one of the wonderful things. If you think about some industries, they stay mostly the same. We're constantly changing the last 20, 30 years. So when you think about especially game industry and game design, it's constantly changing. Some things, keep a little bit the same. How do you make good fun in games? But a lot of things change all the time, especially with the last years with Unreal Engine. And that was one of the biggest cornerstones in CG Spectrum. So basically, a school founded by industry veterans, like over a decade ago, where they looked, okay, what is needed in the industry out there, and how do we teach people that, and bring that together and overlap those. And one of the biggest change was a few years ago when we switched from Unity to Unreal Engine, and since then we're close partner with Unreal Engine, and we're also the first official partner of Unreal Engine as an Unreal academic school, which was completely remotely, and which we've since then very proud of. And we have a bunch of numbers. We've now, I think, what is it, Ryan? The gold certificates that we have, and like premium platinum. I cannot keep up with that.
Yeah, double figures, definitely.
Yeah, double figures of mentors, that have now these certificates. So that's quite a lot, and that is also because like Unreal Engine is now powerhouse, not only because it is the coming engine in game development, but also it is in general like one of the biggest engines out there now, used also for 3D visualization, for in general also virtual production, movie, TV, film production. And that is where we capitalized on the last years. We watched a big change. And to give you a little bit of context about myself, that is actually also was the same time when I came to the school, and which helped me actually break in the industry, because I was a few years ago. No, it's been a while now. I'm getting old, but I've experienced over 10 years experience in the tech industry, coming originally from the programming side and also educational side, teaching people how to use programs. One time, teach people how to actually use programs like Teams and Office. Well, then actually also worked as programmer, web development. But since a small child, actually, let me share my screen with you, so get a little bit of an overview about also what we do as our school. I hope I have the rights, Ludovic, to share the screen.
Yes, you have.
It isn't working.
In the top, there is icon to share.
It's not working. Wait, let me restart quickly Teams, and then I can share, because it seems not to be working. So with a technical interrupt. Always asking for right, well, I gave it right, but maybe I just need to restart. Let me quickly restart, and then we can get a. Okay. And Ryan, can you shortly introduce yourself while doing that? And then,
Of course, yes.
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name's Ryan, as Oliver said, and I'm from the UK, and I'm mostly well known for training consulting services I do for Unreal Engine. If you've used Unreal Engine, chances are you've seen my stuff already, all over YouTube, Twitch, even Epic's official courses and materials. So, yeah, I am a gold member of the instructor partners. So I basically get hired by Epic and many other studios to help consult and train their various studios and also education institutions too. I've been part of CG Spectrum for the past, I think, 4 years now, 5 years, something like that. And since then, I've been a fundamental role inside of the game design team, looking after the game design courses and mentoring individuals on those courses too.
Alongside all the content that we create for CD Spectrum and myself, I am my own independent studio. We are developing our own games and currently working on a PC, Xbox, and PlayStation title, hopefully releasing next year. But it's been an interesting journey for me. I started off as a teacher. I was a teacher in a typical classroom, and I got started picking up Unreal Engine way back when. And since then, I've been experimenting more, trying to do more with the game industry, supporting the games industry at large. So doing talks such as these, and obviously joining CD Spectrum to help their students progress further and get into the games industry. Now, getting into the game industry is tricky, and much like any dream job, it is not as simple as just falling into it. It does require a lot of hard work. And one of the key things that we do at CD Spectrum is give you that opening door for you to go into and get straight in with people from industry themselves. So your sessions would be with mentors who are in industry currently and are working day to day in amongst the game industry at various points. So that's what we do at CD Spectrum. I went off and I usually, when I end up talking to my mentorees, they like to learn a lot about what we're doing as a studio myself. So starting a studio, running a studio, talking to publishers, pitching to investors, things like that. A lot of people get a lot of interesting insight from that. And something, pardon me, it's something that you don't typically do get from a traditional education background. So having that close tie to industry really does benefit every single student. And it's because one of the main ways you get into industry is through networking. You want to be networking constantly. And networking is basically you just chatting to people in industry and trying to make friends and connections. And it's those connections that will get you into this industry. And what CD Spectrum does, obviously, it gives you that mentor straight away who is in the industry. So right away, you're networking from day zero with your courses and your mentors. Not only that, we also have the alumni network on our Slack channel too. So all the students that have come before you are make it into industry. They will be still there, and you can talk to them. They will talk to you and share their insights, and even start up studios and hire practices inside of our Slack channel too. So it operates as a good first step into the industry that opens a lot of doors right away. Oliver, is your screen?
Yeah, it should be working now. So
okay, we'll try that again.
Let's see. So if I share now this, you should see my browser.
Yes, very good.
And hopefully you haven't talked everything about in my presentation. You know?
No.
It sounded like exactly what I wanted to say, so I will take yours for credit now.
Yep.
That I think you already touched some base notes and about what we're doing here at CG Spec and what I could hear right now. And thank you very much also for taking over covering for me. That is one of the things, you know, studying remotely but online, but in general, you know, one of the things I have the biggest memories of working in the industry as a producer is Teams, you know. It's with every software that you use in a game development, you always have to use it. I think most people are fond members of Maya, Teams, and others. It's like a love-hate relationship. And that is one of the things in the industry is about persistency. You know, since 2012 or 11, one of the constant things is like change and persistency to learn. And that is one of the things we're embracing here is learning. And as you can see here, this is our website, it's CG Spectrum, and it's where our story begins. But also I want to tell you more about that story, and then shortly I'll tell you about my story and how they connect with CG Spectrum. So I'm coming originally from the tech side and the application side, software programming, and always since a kid, as you can see here, that is me with 8-9 years old. I was already into game design. The game, you know, it might look complex. It was very simple. It was not a good game, you know, thinking bad, you know. I could have done better, but it kind of inspired me, you know, to get better, do more games. I was since then interested in games. And it took me actually till I was 27 years old. It's now over 6 years since then that I actually realized, hey, I can do it. I can get into the game industry. I mean, I'm already in the tech industry. I'm already a programmer, so switching from a programmer getting into game design and game programming should not be that hard. The thing is, yeah, theoretically it should be, especially with the skills. But then looking at the industry is a gated industry. There's so many things to do, and it's one of the hard things, and also like one of the dream things, because a lot of us want to get into the industry and want to make this change. So you can always find me also on like LinkedIn if you are interested a little bit more about my background, but I want to keep it high level here. And basically, back then I wanted to switch from the tech industry into the game industry, and I looked at a lot of different universities and looked at different pathways, because there's a lot of different pathways that you can take always, and that is the biggest confusing thing more today than ever. And I chose in CG Spectrum, and I went with CG Spectrum, which helped me then break into the industry, get into game design, work on projects like Star Citizen, Squadron 42, as well as some other projects. A little bit with Ryan also, like I had my passion for freelancing, also working on my own company, but also working outsourcing and getting things started, but also working in the AAA industry. And yeah, I came back was assistant mentor, and right now at the moment, I'm handling our game studios and business accounts and working with them and seeing how we can help studios also level up their skills, because it's not only breaking into the industry, but it's also how to keep in the industry and be on a performative level. As we had in the last talk, AI is one of the things, but in general, like there is always something new to involve, and it's about, I think Pauline said it nicely also, being off the top of the game, always keeping how to improve, it's keeping up with the learning. So highly recommend to like get this mindset, and this is one of the things of our story. If you want to know a little bit more about that, you can find our story a little bit more about also what we do on our homepage. We have a wonderful homepage here. I like to keep it like a bit high level and tell you a little bit about what we actually do, not more about the path, which we already went now, but about how actually we get people there where they would like to be and make sure they have the success. And one of the things is we always get asked is how do you get people actually in like studios like Disney, like Overwatch, and have those high rates of like to actually have those numbers and have people in there, because for a lot of people it's a dream job working, for example, like here Overwatch 2. Maybe have some seen like Borderlands, like some of those like hits, and getting into Disney for a lot of people that is the dream. But it's not only there, like there is a lot of jobs in the industry. I think a lot of times we're looking at just the highest level, but that is for a lot of people the ultimate goal. And we ask like, how do you do that? And it's like one of the principles is like, if you talk with people that hire actually our students, for example, let's take Benjamin here. Benjamin studied with us in, as you can see here, 3D modeling and working on Overwatch. And I, for example, always talk with the people that hire our students. And last year in Gamescom, I had the pleasure to talk with the two seniors that actually hired Benjamin. And I was asking them the same question that our creators of this school asked in the industry over a decade ago, and say like, okay, what do you need in industry, and why actually would you hire someone that is actually a junior, has no experience in industry, and why would you like hire someone to work on a project that is on the top level? And the interesting answer that I got is like saying, of course, we need people. Like if you work on the top level, like with Overwatch 2, you need to be at this level on top of that game, but most of the people come with maybe being here and maybe like here, but you need people like on top of that. So how do you bridge that gap? And he said, like, for example, in the case of Benjamin, he was already here. So he was already halfway there. So they took a look at him and said, like, all right, he's halfway there. And another part is he has the skills and he has the drive. And in 1 month, they got him to the next level. So if you take a look at his portfolio, so that is Benjamin's portfolio. So he came with us with no prior knowledge. And this was his first, for example, his project. And we got him all the way there in an 18 months career track. And to focus on getting him to that level, because he said, like, I want to do stylized and my dream would be the Overwatch. working with Blizzard. And actually, he achieved that goal because he had this specific goal. And how do we achieve that? Because bring him to the level. How do you get it to that level? And there's one part, I think you mentioned it right before, is like our mentors. So having a mentor on your side on a level that worked in the industry and knows that and gives you the experience, gives you a lot of those shortcuts because those people went already through that. So it's like a little bit like, if you can imagine it, going through a quest. If you are an MMORPG and you or like any RPG game, you want to level up. And if you say maximum level was 100, having someone that already went through the level is really, really helpful. And then it's the next thing is to go through the level, building up the skills. And it's also a little bit like I always like the metaphor. What we're doing is like having people build houses, And the first thing you need to do is building this foundation. Because if you don't have the foundation, then you can never reach those high like levels. And it is the biggest thing when I talk with people and ask them like, hey, why do you hire people and why do you don't hire people? It makes this difference of having this foundation where you can build upon. Because only if you have the foundation and then you get the next level, you can also build the roof and make sure you get to this highest level. And that is one of the ways. And that is combined also with the step by step, like getting to that, putting in the work, having the guidance and knowing where you want to reach to get to the level and reach that level. But also because knowing where you want to head is quite key in that aspect. And that is also like one of the other examples from what we have, for example, with Petro, who also did the exactly same thing. He said like, I want to work, with Blizzard. He made this goblin. This was one of his projects. And then asked the people that worked with Blizzard, worked with writing, worked on Stylized. He's like, hey, I want to do Stylized, either Riot Games or Blizzard, one of those two. And exactly focused on that in his studies. And network with those people and get the experience to make sure he focuses and reaches exactly those goals. And there's also like another part, like I think to bring in, for example, here, it's more about maybe interesting for those people that enjoy visual production here, and VFX is our student Marco Telarte, which started with us the whole virtual production program, which is basically a technical artist program, like combined where you can focus on lighting, can focus on cinematic production materials, and so on, and VFX also in Unreal Engine, which is coming back to why Unreal Engine is so genius, because it gives so many different outlets and ways and how to utilize it. And he directly got a job in the industry, AAA industry in Amsterdam, in his hometown, with Horizon Zero Dawn, working with Guerrilla Studios, now working with Playground Games, and is by now senior lighting artist, and in 4 years went through the roof in the industry, and now also came back as an assistant junior mentor with us. And this is one of the stories also. And I talked with all of them and also the people that hired them, especially those people. And it's the same pattern that's coming up, One side, having those skills to make sure you reach that level, and then combining that with a clear focus and building a portfolio. So with the help of then also mentors, experienced people, helping them make a portfolio that actually targets where they want to head to. And then the next part is, I think also Ryan, you mentioned before, the part of networking, because all of those students, and I will show you in shortly also another one, were active in a community, like actively participating, for example, here also into, for example, the Rookie Awards. It's upcoming. It's one of the biggest events. If it isn't yet on your radar, highly recommend checking it out, because this is one of the biggest things also in our school, for example, right now. Everyone is preparing for the rookies, getting together, making some group projects. And this is also what, for example, exactly Gabriel did. As you can see, he's pumping out assets the last 2 years, but also he started small, but he said like, hey, I want to get going. He first actually switched on, like focused on realistic, and then switched over to stylized. But one of those also have together is because they have a clear goal, what they want to achieve, where they want to go, and the another part is network, because some of them like got the job exactly because of network, because putting in the right work and then combining it with network. And network is another part of what makes people, especially switching over a little bit more to game design and game development. Game development is hard. It's very complex. And especially as a beginner, it can be overwhelming because you need to do so many things. Just in game dev alone, you have game design, you have the different types of, like, you need programming, maybe you need different ways how to actually put a cool game together from the technical side. But then you need to, for example, also create the assets. And what we always recommend in our school and also actively support is group projects. And I think also, like, I don't want to take too much about that because Ryan, he's from the game design side and exactly can walk you through some of this project and the background and how they came actually to life. But here to show you some example is my one active, for example, is the baby of two of our students from Germany, one game programmer and game designer that came together and said, like, hey, we have an idea for a game, let's do it. And we're also so specially gifted that actually, like, Kai, one of those two, comes more into the artistic side, which also created some of these objects, but also because he always approached it with the sense of, hey, there's other people in our community, there's 3D modelers, there's concept artists, I can utilize them. And you can find more about that, and I highly recommend that. Check out, we have a whole talk about, it's 1 hour long, with our mentor Scott, as well as Kai and Daniel. You can see them here. So our mentor department and Scott, as well as with Kai and Daniel, who created this game. And if you would like to know more about, like, hey, how they created this, what the journey was, highly recommend checking it out. We find everything also, like a lot of our content, all about our philosophy about CG Spectrum, where we have exactly also some talks specifically tailored toward how industry pathway works, how do we get in industry, and what it makes you so successful to be there in the long run. And that is also one of the things, one of our game designers did. Basically, game designers are usually the ones that are creative, and he also collaborates with other students together. And it's just basically, I know this myself because this project I helped personally also, it's just started by a person that created this, Jeff, just having this idea of this cute little detective going out, making some investigation in a noir style. And he just created a prototype and not thinking about like much, but just like, hey, I explored the idea, just created a prototype. You know, what most of the times game designers do. They just prototype and try things. Yeah? But he had such fun with it. And he was so passionate with his idea and so vivid in explaining what he would like to do that he pitched it in one of our casual meetings to some 3D modelers and concept artists. And this concept artists and 3D modelers said, like, hey, that's actually a lovely idea. That's something I can imagine. And two of them sit down and actually created some concept art, which they pitched it then to the 3D modelers. And I said, like, hey, do you think we can put something together? Which they did, surprised actually Jeff, and like, hey, I have something, and it just spiraled out in just no time. And where we came in and said, like, hey, actually, you guys need some help, support, you know, and we support them with their own platform, like putting in like everything together so they can actually work like a proper team and not only simulate, but actually making a whole game as a group. And this is the vital experience which helped most of them think they're actually, you think like everyone besides one who then didn't go that route, you know, got a job in the industry, and I think the one also got a job in the meanwhile in that industry. But I know Jeff, for example, he directly got a job in industry because he had this portfolio, but also through that experience, he exactly knew how to get into a pipeline, how to work with other people together, how to coordinate a project, but also how everything comes together. And this is one of the biggest things is knowing how to work in pipeline. Because most of the times, whether you work in the game industry or in movies, like these are highly complex pipelines. And usually you're working with at least one or two product people together, especially in game design. For example, the game design, the teams that I led at CG Spectrum, for example, we were in the middle of the project. We were coordinating. I had to constantly coordinate with multiple teams getting together. Each of my game designers had to talk with other people from other teams constantly, knowing where does his work start, where does it end, and how to communicate and how to work with other people together. And that is one of the biggest part is when you put everything together, so from your skill set, networking, your portfolio, what you can do, the biggest thing is to get into the industry is being able to be plug and play. I always like to use, if you have a phone, plug and play, the same thing. If you can be plug and play, coming back to what the people said I talked with, is like, for example, with Benjamin, they said like, they nearly could like take him like and directly plug him in a pipeline. They only needed a few weeks, took him in for one month in the studio, worked him up. After that, he worked completely remotely, and then already had to work on the actual piece for Overwatch, and then created a few more pieces, and then started directly on the next level, creating full characters. And that fast can it go? This is a timeline from 1 year, 2 years in total. So if you think about like 2 years going through studies, and then in the third year already working on Overwatch, like in a 3 year time from starting from completely zero. And that is because he focused on what makes him usable in the industry, how we can focus on getting working in an actual pipeline on that level in a branch and field where he wants to be. Because it's all like, hey, he can stylize, he can do that, he's workable, and he can learn very fast. And it's all skills that are needed and looked out for, and that I heard over and over again from all the people that I talk with. Why do we hire our students? What makes them so great? Like, why do we do it? And this is one of the things we keep asking us these questions, because one of the things is like, how do we keep improving that? Because we mentioned before, industry is changing, and with that, we always keep up and see like retrospective and in perspective, what are we doing? What is the industry doing? And how do we make sure we overlap that? Before I hand over to Ryan, which will tell you a little bit more about how we actually do it a little bit more in detail, because I went a little bit like more on high level, and he can tell you a little bit from his side and what we do, especially in game design, so great. If you want to know a bit more in general about like some of our, for example, degrees and diplomas, which we also have, where we focus on exactly doing that, we have an open day upcoming directly April the 15th, which is just around the corner, which you're also happy to join and learn a little bit more about that. And if you have a little bit more questions, which are going a bit more deeper, you can directly ask Ryan or me later on in the Q&A. With that said, handing it over to Ryan. Take it away.
So, perfect. So I want to just echo a few things that Oliver has stated already as key things about getting into the industry and staying in it. A big misconception we get from everyone I speak to, not just our students, but every student or everyone who wants to get into the game industry is they thinking that they have to come in with the polished skill set that they need right off the bat. They need to be producing Overwatch 2 level skins on day one of joining that company. And that's not the case. And that's not the case for any role in most industries. What they're looking for is that foundational skill set that Oliver was talking about, where you want someone that's malleable and that one has the skill set to learn and develop their own skills on the job. And there is always going to be a transition period of training to get you into the start of the pipeline, the style, the themes that they're going for inside that studio. But ultimately, what they're looking for are people who have the ability to adapt and evolve within the studio. So it's not necessarily a thing of thinking about like, I can't get into the industry because I don't have AAA level skills yet. That's not what they're looking for, and not what they would expect from anyone either. If you're going into the industry for the first time, they expect they're going to have to train you up. And even someone who is AAA background of 20 years of experience, there's always going to be some onboarding process as they get adjusted to that team's design pipeline, style, and values. And that's important to realise is a lot of students do come in with that sort of hurdle that they think they've got to get over. And talking a bit more about the game design course. So the game design courses in particular, we look at not just how to design a game, but we also look at the industry as a whole, look at what's popular right now, what are the trends we are noticing. Because when you think about game development, you don't have to think about what's working right now. You have to think years ahead. You have to think like maybe 4 or 5 years ahead about what would be good, and what would be a good product to sell. And I think that's a key skill that people don't realise, is that we are often thinking about the future, well, all the time thinking about the future, and thinking about how we can apply that skill to what we're doing now. And so the game design course is centered around that. So looking at market trends, looking at audiences, and looking at how they're evolving, and looking at the landscape of the games industry. Now, the game industry itself is very volatile at the moment, and that's not anything we can help with, but there's something we can do to mitigate the impact it has on us as developers. And so we're looking at people who have got that adaptability, so you can turn on a dime and adjust to different workflows, different scopes as you need to, but also the ability to self-sustain as well. So a lot of studios you find out there are going to be doing a lot of outsourcing or cooperative development alongside maybe working on their own titles, and that's quite a more common thing you see nowadays. As a lot of studios are supplementing their main development with these sort of cooperative opportunities. And so that's an important thing to look out for when you are looking for jobs in the industry, is that you're not just looking at the studios that you know and love, you're looking at studios that support those studios. And there are lots of them, and it's a number that's growing day by day. So a lot of studios out there, a lot of opportunities out there too. And it's not just working for your EAs, your Activisions, that there are studios everywhere.
The two studios that were showed before, just not to put in the budget, like it exactly works with what I showed before. Benjamin and like Petro, who worked on Overwatch 2. It's exactly two outsourcing studios that support directly Blizzard. So exactly that is a good example.
Yeah. So you've got to look everywhere. And how do you know about these things? And one of the big things we talk about, and you hear this word a lot today, and that's networking. I can't overstate how important it is to just talk to people in the industry. So I've got something here I can share. Share my screen. So this is quite a common conversation I have with a lot of people about networking. And the number one rule that you have to understand from the get-go, and which is surprisingly difficult for a lot of people, especially in this industry, is you have to learn to talk to people. You can't be shy. You have to break the ice. You have to go up to people, introduce yourself, ask them about themselves, and so on. This industry and the sort of like people that kind of attracts, like myself included, are very introverted and find it very awkward to talk to strangers in public. This is something you just have to get over and practice and just put yourself out there a bit more. And it does open up a lot more doors to you. So there are tons of opportunities you can take while talking to these people and making those connections. And I've got a couple of examples, like really good examples of taking opportunities when you see opportunities. So last year, for example, I'm currently developing my own game, Mimic, and basically at the end of this journey, I got that game at our Comic-Con in London in a big booth for free. Something that would cost thousands, I got it for free. And that is by pure networking. And it's all started, I traced it all back. So I was interested, like, how did I get actually to this point? So I tracked it all the way back to, well, what was the first domino that fell on this? And this was me just messaging a woman called Elaine, who works for a sort of games development outreach group in the industry. And I just messaged her saying, hey, introduce myself, be nice to chat to you. And over the couple of weeks, I spoke to her again at a live event. Signed up to some festivals they were hosting. Then I was showing the game at one of these little festivals, at like tiny little office space festivals. And then one of the guys who were giving like the equipment, machines to run the festival on, they were like, "Hey, we need a game for MCM Comic-Con. Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And they were like, "Okay, yeah, you get it free. We'll just give you a space and you just bring the game." And great. And I had the biggest booth out there. So a little indie guy like me got one of the biggest booths at Comic-Con for nothing, which is unheard of. Yeah, and that's by pure networking. And similarly, like not this UC but last UC, I got in front of Capcom, pitching the game to Capcom. And that was by pure networking as well. So I signed up to attend GDC, which is a game development conference in San Francisco, if you don't know or haven't heard of it. And I went on Eventbrite, which is a events management website, and I found a networking event, not related to GDC, just a networking event that's happening at the time. And the host of it wanted to call for pre-meet because they had so many sign-ups. And they were like, hang on, I might have someone to introduce you to. And they brought me in and introduced me to Capcom for a one-to-one meeting. And had since then also got me other work too. He keeps seeing me other work, he keeps throwing it my way on LinkedIn and sending it across my desk. And thankfully for him, I've got a lot of work out of it. So networking is super important, and CD Spectrum obviously gives you that first door in as you have someone in industry right there on your contact list straight away. And we do that for you. And not only that, but you also have access to other mentors. They're all in the same ecosystem too. So how to actually network and build yourself up. This is something we talk a lot about on the game design course, especially in the later terms, where we are starting to prepare students for industry and looking for work in industry. So first of all, you want to build up your online presence. Look at building up your LinkedIn profile first and foremost. LinkedIn is super important. If you haven't already got one, get one. And your first task, I'm going to give you a couple of homework tasks actually by the end of the day. The first task I want you to do is to not just create a LinkedIn account, I want you to add myself and Oliver to LinkedIn. That's your first task. Okay, so build up your online presence on there, build out your portfolio, build out your bio. I've applied for a job in the past 10 years. All my jobs have come to me via LinkedIn, and that's how important that turned out to be for me. Secondly, I kind of overstate this one enough. Go to local meetups. So not talking about your big game events. I'm not talking about like GDCs. You have to go to West San Francisco. We're talking about little networking events that happen in the bar down the street. So have a look at what's happening in your local area. Find other game developers and just hang out. Go for a chat. Go for a drink. Eat some food, whatever it may be, and talk, share ideas, learn from each other. The game industry is very friendly in a sense where we all are supportive of each other. We all want to help each other. There's no like bad blood really. There's everyone wants to be friendly and assist you. Like there are many opportunities where I've had an issue or like a business thing, and someone else I said, "Oh, I know someone who can help you with that," and they passed me my details on. And likewise for them, I've done the same for them. Fourthly, I want you, I don't think you can see, but participate in the events, participate in game jams, participate in the Slack communities. So when you join CC Spectrum, you are part of our Slack community, and you have that after the course as well. And that's integral because the community there is what a lot of people are coming from. So Oliver spoke about a couple of studios that started out from CD Spectrum. So some people from CD Spectrum got together, started out a studio, and just the other day I had an old student of mine who just finished his course 3 weeks ago, and they joined a studio that started from CD Spectrum as a game designer. So it's a little network there too that you have exclusive access to being a student as part of our website. Basically, may seem obvious, but be friendly and approachable. You've got to talk to people, but also they want to talk to you. So don't go in aggressively or anything like that. Sounds pretty simple, but you'd be surprised. But definitely do that. And Oliver pointed out, portfolio is a key thing that we need to work on, and something that we actually covered during the game design course too is building that portfolio. How to best present yourself for the industry, how to best present yourself to get work, and also stay in the industry. Portfolio is a living thing. It's not something you just make once at the start and leave it alone. It's something that you're constantly adding to, adjusting, refining, all the way through your career. You never stop. Prepare well. So when you're talking to someone who you know you're about to go meet with someone, do your research, find out a bit about them, find out who they are, what they do, and go in that conversation if you can with that information. And then finally, stay in touch. You'll build up a massive contact list eventually, but do stay in touch. You'd be surprised where people end up going. So, for example, people at CD Spectrum, you may find that your classmates have suddenly gone off and done amazing things at X, XYZ studio, hey, you've now gone in with someone at that studio. Yeah, you've now got a contact with that someone in the studio. So stay in touch with these people, stay in touch with your classmates, stay in touch with your colleagues. The amount of students, or actually everyone, the amount of people that have gotten jobs because they have a friend they used to work with at another studio have now got an opening and now getting in. It's all about who you know. So build up your list of people who you know. But then you go into the question of like how do you actually grow and stay in the industry. So I emphasize a couple of things. So as mentioned before, the game industry is ever evolving. There's new software, new tools, AI, for example, are always coming out. It's impossible to keep up. There's way too much. So first thing that going with this understanding is understand that you'll be forever learning on the job. Yeah, you'll be learning is the job. Yeah. Every project you join, there's always going to be some new tech, new method, new pipeline that you're trialing out for that project. Very rarely are you going and doing it right by numbers. So understand that yes, you'll be learning forever. So this is why we say it's important to build that foundational knowledge of how to learn. That how to develop that skill is most critical, most important skill over a state. Anything I learned at university way back when, that software doesn't even exist anymore. So it just proves how quick it all just moves on. When approaching any problem, be it artistic, programming, or object design, make sure you break the problem down, assess it, analyze it, and discover your solution. Don't give up, don't just throw away, don't go around just like it's over. Break it down, and you'll eventually come to that solution. And don't just follow blindly. So when you're following tutorials or following guidance, don't just ask and follow exactly what you're being told. Experiment and build your understanding of that tool, that software. If you don't know what a button does, figure it out, like see what it does. Don't know what a little slider does on a piece of software, crank it up, have a look. So build that understanding up. When you build that understanding up, that's going to help you build those fundamental skills that you need in order to develop. And some final advice for being a game developer. It takes perseverance and patience. It only takes one yes to get the job you want. Yeah, you'll probably come across loads of no's, but that's totally part of the practice. I think J.K. Rowling got denied 12 times before Harry Potter was picked up. Angry Birds was like the 42nd game that Rovio ever made. You know, these things are success. You only have to be successful really once. Yeah, once you get success once, then you build from there. So perseverance and patience. And I've seen sadly some students who have great skill and are really talented at what they do, but they gave up at the first hurdle, which was applying for a job, and they got declined or got turned away or whatever, and they just gave up. And you can't do that. You have to keep going with it and hold around. As I mentioned, the people in the industry are very nice, accommodating, and supportive. So when you do go to meetups, you'll see for yourself that they are very, very friendly people to work with. Thirdly, is something that I don't see many people talking about, but need to be talked about, and that is taking care of yourself. Mental health matters a lot. Game industry is tough. Or every industry, really, creative industry is tough. And so you do have to be careful about what you're doing and how you spend your time, making sure you've got that good balance in your life. But mental health matters a lot. So do take care of yourself. Do give yourself a break here and there. It's okay. You'll still be there when you come back. That's important. And finally, my biggest point to take away is the game industry is super fun and very rewarding. I remember one story, which was when I was first starting out, I made a little mobile game, and it didn't do well. But there was one person I worked with, and he said his daughter played it, and she plays it every single day. She loved it, and that for me was the most rewarding feedback I've ever heard. Like, it didn't make me any money, but it was a little mathematics game, so teaching people how to learn maths. And so knowing that she was learning maths a lot better through my little educational fun little game that I made in a couple of weeks was the best feedback I've ever got. And that's what I'm talking about. It's rewarding in the sense that, okay, the game doesn't have to make you like a millionaire, but if you touch someone's life a little bit and see a smile on their face or anything like that, that's what really brings it together. And I'm a programmer, and there's nothing better than the feeling of solving that problem that you couldn't solve before, and that is sort of like beautiful. It's a beautiful moment. So yeah, and this is all sort of like the foundational things that we try to instill on our students during the courses. And as mentors, that is what we're trying to impart on our side. Is like we can teach you the skills, sure, but at the end of the day, if you don't have this foundational understanding and knowledge and mindset, you're going to have a really hard time. So this is why it's important for us to make sure that you're there with that foundational background in that too. I don't know how much time we've got left. Do we have much, should we go into questions? I don't know how long. I don't know what time we started.
I think it's now around 45 minutes. So,
okay. Yeah.
I think that we have talked, so would have, I think, 15 minutes left. A little bit, you maybe have the time for us exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, you can continue for the next 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I will do a little shameless plug then. If you haven't done so, please check out my game, Mimic. It's on Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox, and you'll be able to wishlist it now. So please do wishlist it. It doesn't help a lot. So thank you very much. Little shameless plug there. There you go. You can check it all out there. But anything for you to add, Oliver?
I think you wanted to round it up and went a bit deeper in some of the topics. I like the foundation. Talking about you first have to lay a foundation, and then you go deeper on it, but you can only do it if you have it. But also one of the things of like teamwork, and I think about Ryan and I, we basically said like, okay, we just go here, we talk about it, and we're like, should we do something and like prepare anything mostly? I said like, I think we've got it, you know, we have it in our hearts and our philosophy, and let us speak for what we are. But that's how we always do it. Like I think like just if you do it long enough, you know, especially coming back to what you said with the latest words, you know, in industry, is like it's wonderful in one part, but it can also be very scary. But that's also what I started with office, and like this consistency of like unconsistency of chaos or of constant learning, constant renewal, you know, is like I like to always see like you playing, if you see game development as a meta game, you know, and you're playing a video game, because in the end it's the biggest video game you can do, because we create a game that creates a game, and nowadays the best game are games that have games in it and mini games and are enjoyable, you know, games in games, you know, the meta game in itself. And I think the one thing also you mentioned is like the rewarding aspect of you figure something out. You have a lot of students, and when I figured out the first time I went into programming at all, no serious knowledge, programming, self-taught, and I went to this next stage, and like I didn't even know how to use a loop. I'm not the best in math, you know, so most of you guys may be even better. And like I can do some patterns, but some arrays, I'm like, no, I'm out of here. But it's sometimes hard because you like, how does it work? How will I ever understand this? But if you're persistent, you keep at it, and especially what you mentioned, I think was beautiful, Ryan, breaking things down. Because our games, especially nowadays, especially if you want to go AAA or you want complex games, but even small games sometimes, there is very complex aspects, and you have so many things. And it can be hard to lose yourself because there's so many things in everything, and then go focus again on some small details. But breaking a concept down or a problem, and then breaking it down and solving it from that side on, and then solving it and making it work, and then having it actually putting a product out there which other people can experience and getting those feedback. I remember the first time I made a project which I really was like stunned, you know, putting everything together, made a game, love Dark Souls, and you play a game, but get the player play the actual game, and then you get a comment, oh, it reminds me of this type of game, this type of game. And like you actually was the inspiration for exactly the game you wanted to do, and you get his feedback, and you got this emotion out of someone. That means this person made this emotional connection and experienced it, and you get this. This is a wonderful feeling, and it's only something I think we can do in our industry because we share something. And it's not only like a product that we put out there that makes some money, but as Ryan said, it is art. It is something that is living, is creating, and it's connecting with other people I think that is also what we beautifully can do if we, because most of us, as also I mentioned, are maybe introverts, or like I'm not usually like this. I'm also not like used to this. Maybe Ryan too. We're both like sitting here like inwardly like nervous, as hell. But we just go out there because we learned how rewarding it is and how we connect, because all we do here is coming back to what beginning of the talk, sharing stories, sharing our stories here. Thank you very much, Ryan, for sharing your story. It's amazing. And let's answer some of the questions from the students.
Is make a LinkedIn account, add me over to LinkedIn. That's the first thing. Second thing, I want you to find 10 people in the event that you don't know, introduce yourself and find out what they do. And talk about yourself as well. That's your homework. But anyway, teacher and me, there you go. Same homework for everyone. But anyway, yeah, let's jump into questions. If there's any questions already queued up.
Okay, thank you very much. I would have a lot of questions, but I will give you possibility to put questions for my students. The first question will put Peter Gnadik. We have a microphone.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. Firstly, I just want to say that I've been following your page for a while now, and what you're contributing to the VFX industry is really amazing. And I guess my question is about CG Spectrum. Are there any collaborative student projects that mimic real studio team dynamics or working in professional pipeline?
Was that so? Do we have any? Hold on here. Was it like do we have anything working with a professional pipeline with the studio?
Yeah, do you guys offer any like student projects that your
Oh,
students can
yes,
work
yes.
together?
Yeah. So we I don't know how regular it is, but we regularly have in our Slack channel where we manage our community in. There are regular projects that we set up. We are usually managed by one or two mentors, and they basically follow the same pipeline and get students involved in it. We just had one last year called Toy Box Titans, which was a chance for students to be part of a project and have a role in a project. So I had one of my mentorees, they were the producer of that project. And so they were in charge of managing it and looking after the project and timelines and things like that. All whilst being shadowed and overwatched by a industry mentor. So all our mentors are in the industry. So they are they're basically a sidekick where they will help out and give advice. And so yeah, we regularly do little projects like this where students get involved and basically you apply for a role in that team. So we have 3D modelers, artists, level designers, programmers. All these people come together, and we will make something together in that Slack community. But yeah, I think it was quite a successful project. I don't know if it's actually released it or not. I have to check. But yeah, it was like a little action adventure game with like toys and things like that.
Yes, thank you. Next question will put student from Ukraine, Dominika Wisniewskaja. No? Ah, from Belarus.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was curious to ask about your opinion. Do you think, how can I say it well, how much do you think AI will influence future of game design and VFX, and is it possible that it would be possible to still stay on top of the industry without using it, or is it inevitable?
Yeah, okay, I get this question a lot. So they said exactly the same thing when computers were coming about and they thought all receptionists would be disappeared. They said the same thing about artists when Photoshop came out. This is a cyclical thing that happens, like a new tool will be developed, like, and AI is just that new tool now. And the fear mongering of, oh my god, we're going to do robots. No. It's just a tool. Just like how a computer was a tool for receptionists, like Photoshop is for artists, it's just another tool to develop and work with. AI is, after all, generative, not creative. So it can generate a lot of stuff. It'll get you like 60% of the way there, but that last 40% will always need that little human touch to get it exactly where you want it to go. The benefit that AI will give us in game design and game development terms is when you're developing a game, um, the initial part of that is you're developing a prototype or vertical slice that you want to pitch to publishers, investors, whoever it may be. And that vertical slice is usually quite expensive because usually you have to fund it yourself and it takes a bit of time and people develop. So when you're trying to build a team up, when you're trying to build funds up, when you're trying to build support up for your project, it can be a lot easier when you've got AI tools to help you because you can make something look half decent and get the point across what your game is going to be. And you can start enticing people to join your team. You can start getting investors interested. You can start getting publishers interested. And it usually works really well in the ideation process and like developing mood boards and brainstorming ideas. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just another tool, and you're never going to lose pick that human touch. I don't think it's going to be. It's just something else that's just going to evolve and be part of our ecosystem of tool sets that we have to learn to adapt to. And that's something that we're all learning about now. And as we mentioned during the talk, like you never stop learning. We're learning about AI. Like myself and Ida are now using learning how to use AI. I'm trying to figure out where it fits within that pipeline and how it can fit in that pipeline. And most developers are finding that it's at that early stages of the pipeline where it's actually quite beneficial. It speeds that process up a little bit. But can it replace the whole pipeline? No, definitely not. It can help in areas and elements of it, but overall, it's just impossible. You're going to need a human touch at some point. And so I'm not worried about it, but I'm intrigued to see where, and I keep experimenting with it as well. As like, where can I fit this on my pipeline? The tools are getting impressive, but they're still a long ways off. So, like, I went to GDC a few weeks ago, and there's a lot of booths there talking about generative AI for 3D models and animation. And like, yeah, it looks okay, but it's still not usable. Like it's still going to be a static model that I can't really use in the game apart from just be a statue. Or the animation, yeah, it'd be okay, but it won't work for the kind of character that I want it to be. Like I want it to be a big hulking character. I can't really do that too well in that one. And so there are elements where it does fall short on, but it can speed up a lot of processes. I, for one, will welcome AI to help me rig and UV map models because I detest it as a personal thing. But it's something. If you can help me do that, then I'm all for it. But I'm not worried about it. I think some people are, but I don't think it's something that needs to be concerned about. It's just as a receptionist, just learning how to use a computer rather than a typewriter.
Okay, thank you. Next question we will put the student of the third class of visual effects, Patrick Kuchar.
Thank you. I would like to ask, I was wondering what your teaching philosophy is. It based on some workshops with the students, or is it like self-learning when students are making their stuff and then the mentors have the feedbacks, and what's the way of teaching in your school?
Right, I'll let you answer this question. I just have to look because I'm already late to another meeting, which I have to read agenda. So if someone else should have a silly question, like feel free to write it. If it's regarding me, like else, I'll keep it to Ryan. I think Ryan anyway, like he's the man for everything. It was lovely. Thank you for being invited here. I have to unfortunately jump now because we're a little bit late with the other meeting and our presentation will split, but hopefully everyone got along with us. Keep the task in mind for Ryan, I wouldn't be here just to put this like here in perspective, I wouldn't be here even if I wouldn't have went to Bruno, a few years back, met a specific person, one of my good enough friends, Marek. He's actually from Bratislava, which this connection came through together, and I was able to let him be here. Yeah, he's here.
Yes, he is here.
Okay.
He's waiting
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Marek. He's if he's your teacher in Bratislava and you're one of the students, go to Marek and say hey, you're amazing, and give him a hug from me. That's your task from me, and make connections, because that is one of the things. The funny thing is, Mark was first hey, what is this guy from Vienna doing here in Brno? The only Austrian here. What does he think? And then we actually came together, and I always come to him, and he comes to me in Vienna. But that is the beauty. We didn't know each other. We went to a game conference. We made connection, and now after years, still having good connections, and that is the beauty of networking. With that, I bring it around because I really have to jump. Yeah. See you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, Oliver.
So yeah, the courses are a bit of both. So it's both student-led and you do have material. So we give you material and guidance, but usually we give you a bit of freedom about what it is you're actually making. So, for example, you'll get a brief which is to make. I'll talk about games because I'm from the game side. It'll be okay. We need you to come up with a game for this particular scope, but we're going to teach you how to do game design documents, how to do technical documents, and how to build level design, all within that context of that. And then what you're developing alongside that is your project. And usually when it comes to the mentor meetings, the mentor meetings are going to be one-to-one moments where you can ask questions. Most of the time that turns into bug fixing, like how do I actually do this, how do I do that? That's fine, we can talk about that. But it can also be an opportunity for artists, it'll be reviewing their artwork and helping them with that. But outside of the mentor meetings, you're following prepared sort of material, videos, PowerPoints, documents, things like that to help you with whatever course that you want. So yeah, bit both.
Thank you. We would have prepared more questions, but we are late in this moment a little bit, and I want to ask you for future. If we spoke with Oliver before this meeting, so I asked him for possibility to present your students on our first day of conference. Today there is the second for professionals, and the first is for students. So do you think that in future it will be possible to present some student from your education?
We'll try and bring someone along. Yeah. To make sure the times don't match up, but yeah, we can bring someone along.
What interests us very much is very various international students. So with different thinking, with different aesthetics, with different view of point of view. Yes. If you mention Benjamin, so he's example of successful. But for us, it's a student, yes, or a graduate. But for us, it's very interesting. This generation of students that are not really successful yet, but they have maybe good future, and we can compare our abilities or our skills with the skills of your students. So do you think is it possible to organize it for future?
Yeah, definitely. One thing we didn't mention, I don't think, was during the call, the presentation was that in the C spectrum classes, it can be a real mixture of people. I have classes where I have someone in West Coast USA, and in that same class there'll be someone from South Africa, there'll be someone from Turkey. It's all over the place, which is really, really cool. So part of that is really interesting because there's also different challenges based upon different locations in the world. One particular challenge comes up is okay, how do I get a job when there's no studios in where I live? So a big thing we talk about is remote work and remote conversations and how much more possible it is nowadays. But we've definitely got students on board that are really solid students that are just about graduating or about to graduate, and they, I'm sure, will be happy to come in and do a talk at some point. Yeah, always.
Fantastic.
Sure, about coming in.
one more question. One student wants to ask me.
Hello, hello. This is like not a
Hello.
question, but like many of us here follow your tutorials very like dearly, and
Hey.
we really want to like thank you. Like some of us are subscribed to your Patreon also, and without you, we wouldn't know how to script really. Like half of my knowledge goes from your tutorials. Like many of us already did the survival series on the eventually horrific work. We just wanted to thank you. Like it was great, really good series. Very appreciating. That's it.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure because I don't get to see or speak to anyone when I make these videos, so it's lovely to hear that people are enjoying it and making use of it. So thank you
You're
for
a
watching
celebrity here.
and supporting.
One of our best viewers. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Ryan. So next time in future. Okay. We saw also next speakers or next participants on our Teams screen. So next speaker will be from University Sofona, and is Ivan Barroso. He's pedagogue at this university in Lisbon, Portugal. So please try to explain your ideas.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
My name is Ivan. This is Vasco.
I'm Vasco.
Or should we say ahoy
Ahoy.
to everyone then?
Yes, ahoy.
Vitalije, tako sam si presel i to je to. This is the maximum that we'll speak in Slovak. We have no more to
You
speak.
have to learn more.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. Me and Vasco are going to talk a little bit about this game that's called O Interno Teams as well. Our team, it's composed by...
Yeah, me, Vasco Oliveira. I'm the level designer. Then we have Daniel Punal, that is our lead game developer. Marta Vaz, our artist, and
me, that I'm the project manager and the game designer of this project that we attended to. So, this is our game that's in Alentejo.
yeah. Alentejo is a region here in Portugal, more at south, and is known for being super quiet and yeah, it's like it's Texas from Portugal. Let's say that.
Yeah, the western part, and this is our way of doing a spaghetti western, but in the Iberian Peninsula. So where did this idea come from? It's always curious. It's a question that we get a lot of times, so we'll try to say it in few words.
Yeah. So basically, me and Ivan went in an event at my old school, all right, and we started thinking like, what if in the 90s Portugal had made some games for Game Boy? And
yeah. Mostly because in Portugal, game development for consoles only started in the new millennium. We didn't do anything in the 20th century. And he just asked me, why didn't we do stuff for consoles in the 1990s? And I said, well, if they did, what do you think that we would do based on the media that we saw on television, on comic books, on literature? And then we saw all this series that was
Major Vega, Clarkson, and it's like Alentejo Sela. It was like a western, and it was in Alentejo too.
It seems like a good concept for us to start upon, and it's really nostalgic here, and also communicates a lot with Spanish people about this deserted part of Iberian Peninsula could be westerns, and so we decided to create the Game Boy version compatible with a series of consoles as well. And we define it like this: it's a spaghetti western in our own way. And Vasco started saying stuff that should be have here.
yeah, like it's a game about shooting first, so like a old western where the main mechanic is killing enemies and actually resolves puzzles in dungeons, and you have like the part above and the dungeons in the caves and all of that.
Yeah, and then we devised that, okay, let's make a digital version that's available in each queue if someone wants to download it, pay it, and so on. And then we decided it should be really cool if we had like a cartridge version for an obsolete console. And it's
We
all that.
decided to make like the physical version, and it works in basically every Game Boy, Game Boy Pocket, Color. Even we had we had people using the adapter of GameCube.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the one from Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo. And that's where our partner came from. That was Technemic Software, but a little bit more about this a little bit later. And when we decided to tackle upon and how can we create a game based on location and with these settings, we decided to use rational game design, a technique used by Ubisoft. And we defined first our target audience. Who should be our target audience? A little bit more about this a little bit later. But we have all these processes that market research. Who is going to be our main focus, our core audience from? And we decided Nigeria, of course, it's to be the most easiest. We have stats, we have data, we have media, so we could get a lot of stuff. Design research, we start to see what do people still play today on the Game Boy, and two games would always pop up. That was Pokemon's and The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, and that's why in the game we also used like the top-down view, because those games like Pokemon and Zelda, the most famous ones, use it as well. So we decided we should make it like that, looking like that, a top-down view.
Yeah, because it's going according to our target audience. Then we know that the target audience had that gameplay expectations, then we see the demography, the sex, the age, the gender, all those things, and then we try to, we have this concept, now let's do all the things that is context, that means all the content that the game has, what are the core and features, and finally, what are the mechanics that we are going to have that respect all this philosophy. And we devised that our target audience was in reality 3 target audiences. We were aiming to people that were nostalgic. We were aiming to people that are collectors. And we were trying also to reach tech geeks.
Yeah, so you probably are seeing more and more like retro consoles imitating like the old Game Boy, like Analog Pocket and other consoles on eBay or AliExpress.
So
they are coming back, basically.
Yeah, and a lot of persons, then we start to see, okay, these consoles have emulators. What are they playing? Pokemon
And Zelda.
and Zelda.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, probably they want also to play something more contemporary, but that also resembles nostalgic feeling. That's why these audiences are all connected to each other. Even for collectors, we have to think, okay, collector wants a cartridge format. He wants to have a map of the game. He wants
just like the old days,
basically. So next step, research. So we went to research old photos from that period. We went to the Portuguese Center of Photography, and we tried to see what was photos from Alentejo and professions from that period.
Basically, we also searched for like the trains that that worked in Alentejo in that time. And for example, here we have Ratinha, which is like the locomotive that worked on Alentejo those days. More at the bottom, you can see some professional
that already disappeared, and we wanted to keep like at least for people to see what is this profession? What was this really a profession?
For example, a man selling hats,
yes,
or the little boy selling like newspapers, yeah.
And of course, we checked all the buildings down there. We also checked all the public institutions work there. And of course, this is Alentejo. That's one of the popular series that we were inspired to. So more about this locomotive later on, and you'll see why. So when we devised our gameplay loop, we decided, okay, it's again about exploration, like Zelda, like Pokemon is, where you talk to NPCs, you get some tasks, or you just get some world building.
Yeah, by dialogue with them. Yeah.
When you get the task, you have to find the place where the task is to be done, and in those places, usually underground, you have either puzzles to do or you have enemies.
Yeah.
And that's where the only game over comes. It's if you are unsuccessfully in your shooting mechanic, bang bang, you get the game over. The puzzles, it just restarts from the start.
Yeah.
So if you are successful, you will find objects or upgrades that were in the tasks, then you advance the narrative, and then you will explore again, talk to NPCs again, find new places where you do puzzle, where you shoot. So this was our gameplay loop. The spec sheet is quite clear.
Yeah, so this is a single player game, of course it's in Game Boy. Then it's about like 1 hour or so,
Yeah,
80 minutes. It depends if you read the alt text that you have in game, if you talk with everyone.
You do all the tasks.
Yeah. Then the audience is for young adults and adults. Yeah.
Yeah, the genre action adventure, the team at the forefront, we always wanted to say it's a Western, it's entertainment, it's historical fiction, but it's in Portugal.
Yeah.
Portugal was the last piece of the puzzle. The first one was to have international appeal, and to have international appeal, we decided it's not something that only Portuguese can enjoy, but anyone that likes a good Western, anyone that likes a historical fiction, anyone that wants to learn a little bit more about 19th century in the Iberian Peninsula can get. And finally,
yeah, the languages. We translated the game for 7 languages, which is, I think that's very nice because more people can enjoy it. We have Portuguese, of course, English, of course, but then we have the Spanish because our brothers from
Nuestros hermanos,
as we call them. We have the French, Italian, German, and Romanian. So
basically almost all the Latin countries and a few that are Anglo-Saxon and of course from the center of Europe. And this is a story that we devised is a story of Gil de Mata, who is the guy that arrives to this village.
Our cowboy.
That's it. If you don't know, even the word cowboy comes from the Spanish vaqueiro. That's the same word as vaqueiro in Portuguese. So even cowboys are a copy from our cowboy.
Or vaqueiro.
So we have Gil de Mata. This is our main protagonist.
Then we have Dolores, which is like the sidekick with Gil, his partner.
Yeah, and we have Pep, that is the local MacGyver, the local tech guy,
the handyman.
The handyman. He knows how to do anything. Just give him the things that you find, and you will create something from it.
Yeah.
And they're all fighting this guy.
Yeah, but on Tinto. If you don't know what Tinto is, we can tell you it's red line, right? It's how we call them here, Tinto.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the name of the game, that's Tinto's Law, it's a mix of words. It's a wordplay between Tinto, that's, yes, of course, it's wine, but it's also the name of the antagonist. And even the village is called the village of Tinto because it's really known for creating Tinto.
Yeah. And basically this guy, Barão Tinto, is taking over a monopoly in that region and he controls everything related to red wine.
Yeah, and now the train has just arrived because 1933 is the period when the train arrives to the location. So he's going to use the trains to even control even more the entire region. So Zildo is here to disrupt this. Like we said, the game is compatible with a series of Game Boys and versions, so you can play it anywhere. You can even play it on your phone.
Yeah, on the web browser.
Yeah.
Like if you went to itch.io, it turns your mobile phone into a Game Boy like.
Yeah. You just press on Run Game, and your entire layout becomes Game Boy layout.
Yeah.
So the game is about this. It's about entering to a saloon or tavern, as we call it here, talk to persons and know, okay, there's something going on with this red wine or Tinto traffic. Talk to persons.
Dungeons.
Solve puzzles inside those dungeons. Shoot bad guys. Whoever shoots first wins. Or it's more closer to winning. And here it is.
Catina, the locomotive we talked about. Yeah, so we try to be the more close to the original photo that we had.
The most accurate as possible.
Yeah.
And now we can talk a little bit about what went wrong.
Yeah.
It's always fine to say, oh, the game is really good and so on, but I think there's lessons also to be learned about what went wrong.
Yeah. So this is a Game Boy game, right? Maybe
Yeah.
2025. So the stock was crazy to manage. Why? Because it's something manual nowadays. We actually need to make boxes by hand. It's not a machine doing it every 5 seconds or so, you know. So we needed to make that work basically.
Yeah, at certain point we have hundreds of demands for units. People would go to the website, they would order a version, and we could only make dozens
Yeah.
per week. Of course, not us, but
Economic, our publisher. Yeah.
our publisher, but they had that issue where they could not have enough offering for the demand that was happening. It was huge.
Yeah.
It was
For us, at least, it was huge.
yeah, but now it's fixed.
It's fixed.
Localization, also a small problem.
Yeah, so basically, the first time we showed the game to people, it was at events, all right? It wasn't published in itch.io as it now. So we took the game for Orai.
Right? Yeah, Orai, DevGam.
DevGam Orai, and then at DevGam we saw that the people are just trying the game in Portuguese, and the major audience there it was English. So
yeah,
we needed to do something about it.
Yeah, DevGam is an organization, event B2B, which had John Romero this year, and it was hosted by Ukrainian, Polish people, and we only had the game in Portuguese. They found it really curious and so on. We tried even to participate in the contest, but the main issue was it's only in Portuguese.
Yeah, it's lacking on translation.
And localization. That's why it's already fixed, and now it's 7 languages.
Yeah.
Finally,
the optimization. So we don't have much space in a cartridge, right? We have about like 4 megabytes, which for today it's small.
It's laughable, but when you work with obsolete things, you have obsolete considerations.
So we need to be careful about this.
Yeah, and we weren't basically.
That's a nice story because we weren't at some time. So for doing games for Game Boy, you need to do like sprites in a certain aspect ratio,
power of 2.
Yeah, and we didn't do that initially. So and the translation itself
it was occupying a lot of space
in the cartridge. Yeah, so optimization.
That's something that we are working now, and even the retention loop was too simple. Just basically go there and
it was like a fast web.
Yeah. So all these things we are now not an issue anymore, luckily, but it was an issue when they appeared. So now we can talk what went right. Okay, first thing.
Yeah, so we had many people talking about the game online. So TikTok, from news websites,
streamers, influencers, major websites like IGN, others like the Portugal News. That's also a big newspaper here. Small ones. Of course, small TikTokers, small influencers, but all of them contributed. At one point, people were saying, I saw your ads. And we were saying, which ads? We don't have any ads.
It was all natural, but was fantastic for us.
But that was what also created the huge demand for it. So that was okay, and people were okay with it. And at the end, we have this very good numbers for someone that spends 0 in
marketing, basically. We didn't spend any on ads.
No, nothing. But people still think it's ads.
So it was natural.
It was really organic, and we were really okay. It's astonishing. It's really good to know these things. And we have the game in Dynamic. That was what went well because we didn't have any publisher. But after went into DevGam and this company saw, okay, you guys have...
Dynamic is a publisher here in Portugal based on Porto, so more up north. And they are specialized to do some type of
classic games.
Yeah, retro games and stuff.
Spectrum, Mega Drive, Atari, MSX.
Yeah.
So they're really more into this kind of stuff. And it was the first time that I saw something for the Game Boy made in Portugal, and which the demand was quite big. So we got into, we talked to each other and so on. So now they do this
Physical version. Yeah.
This physical version is with a lot of stuff. Yes, there it is in all its glory.
We got that place to show you guys. So yeah, it brings like the map, the manual, the cartridge. So it was like just the old days, basically. You have like the box here.
That's what spoke about it to our collector audience.
Yeah.
And collectors do a lot of videos. They do the videos where they spoke about the game, then they speak about the unboxing.
Yeah. And they play a little bit about the game, yeah.
So, but for them, what is more valuable is they always tell us is, oh, we have a map, we have all these things. It's like really the old days.
Yeah.
Congratulations, I really like the game and so on, and it's a pleasure to have it now on my shelf. That's how the collector market works, basically. For sales.
And you can see that in sales, actually.
Yeah.
So the physical, this is like 730.
Yeah.
Yeah. 70/30. So yeah, that's basically it. The physical version is more.
It's more in demand than the digital. In a world where we think everything needs to be digital, everything has to be online and so on, we had the opposite. Like, no, everything needs to be physical.
And the gap between the prices is different, right? The digital one is like €2, and the physical, the digital is €2. The physical is 20.
Yeah,
20 euros.
It's 20 times more, but it, of course, brings also much more. And even so, people are more into getting the physical than the digital. From our worldwide sales, as you can see, like we said, we focus on Iberia. That's where mostly of our
audience
comes from. And to be honest, we still didn't contact many people outside of Iberia, not many French or Italians or.
You're from the UK,
yeah. We still didn't even contact them.
And the game, I mean, it has some traction outside of the peninsula.
Yeah.
So yeah, Spain it's a bit, of course, Nostros Hermanos again. But for example, Technomic, our publisher, went there into like an event, and he sold super well.
He sold everything that he brought in a few hours.
Yeah.
A few this graphic doesn't show a few of these that are here, but it's French and from Singapore.
Yeah, which is strange.
That's the most strange one was people ordering from Greenland and people ordering from Singapore.
Yeah.
Japan.
It's also cool seeing Japan there because of Nintendo, right?
Yeah. So we are doing fine so far, I would say. But the adventure has to continue because with all this demand, we started and we learned a lot about it. We said, okay, let's do now the sequel.
Yeah.
And the sequel is Alentejo, the team. This is some of the concept art. We're going to have more characters.
Our team expanded
as well.
We started as 4 people. Now we are 10. Yeah. So
for example, the art department was just 1 person. Now it's 4 persons.
Yeah. We got someone for the soundtrack.
Yeah.
The specialized on that.
Yeah. To have more soundtrack. It was one thing that people we received feedback saying more music. We want to have more music, and for us to get more music, we need someone that's a music composer.
Yeah.
So we got one, and he's working on it, and
the programming team
also expands. The only thing that didn't expand well, it was really our team.
Yeah, the
game design.
But yeah, then we also have new sprites. Here's some sneak peek of the new ones.
Yeah, and we can show you just, I don't know if you're going to have sound or not, but this is our
teaser for the next
for the next game.
it is without sound, but we can see the picture.
Sorry?
We don't hear sound. If there is some music or something, you didn't check probably in the sharing.
That's okay.
Sound.
It's okay. We'll just pass to the other. So we just have to thank everyone. Dakunyan. And now we are available for questions. And if you don't know what to ask us, here's some questions that you can ask us.
Okay, so ďakujem veľmi pekne za vašu prezentáciu. You have to learn Slovak, yes, for future if you will want to come here once more. So you will have to learn Slovak better as we did
Yes,
this
yes.
presentation. This is the first. And the second, you have to translate also to Slovakian language because we can admire Romanian language, but we cannot speak Romanian language. Yes. So there are conditions. Just a joke. Yes. And now we have prepared these questions. The first question will put Samo Stračina.
Hi, so I wonder how do you have such high demand without any ads? How do people even know it exists?
I'm sorry, we could not understand.
I wonder how do you have such high demand without any ads? Like, how do people even know it exists?
So the question is how we get people to know our game. Is that it?
Yes, your marketing, how you did it.
Okay. The marketing was a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But we decided to do an organic approach. Of course, we couldn't hire an agency to do this for us. The publisher could also do this for us. But my background is in marketing and journalism. I work as a journalism, so here in Portugal and other places. So, and I spoke 5 languages. That also helps. So what we decided was, let's get in touch with first the persons that we know. Okay, that was one, but that was also not a lot of persons.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe 20 persons at maximum, which is also cool. But the second one was, let's go to TikTok, to Instagram, to YouTube, and see who are the persons that are streaming, talking about games.
Retro games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we decided one thing. Let's use a technique that's called the power of weak links. That means that we didn't aim to go to the person that have millions or hundreds of millions or hundreds of thousands, but let's talk to persons that sometimes have dozens or they have hundreds.
Yeah.
Well,
We started by the small content creators, basically.
Yeah.
And the word spread. So
Yeah.
some videos exploded, and other people start seeing those videos, and I want one copy of that,
yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason was if you get a lot of small ones, then you're getting a big chunk. You're always getting a big chunk, and because the small ones are always connected to each other because they know they need to grow and they're following other persons. We got this a lot of times. People saying, "I already know your game."
Yeah.
We would send just a message, "Hi, we are this studio. We have this game for the Game Boy. Do you want to receive the press kit?" In that press kit would have the game, the game description, the game story, a press release, some photos of the game, some videos of the game,
Yeah.
and a key for the full game in digital format, of course. And some of them were happy just to receive. Oh, I'm being contacted by the studio. Oh my God, someone wants.
Yeah. Wants to send things for the first time, or
Yeah.
inviting me for going to this event or that event. So, yeah.
And the second part, that was the first part, getting people to know the game. Then they were all excited and they would post some would say, "Oh, thank you, but it's not my kind of game, but all the best for you," and so on. Okay, it's okay, it doesn't matter.
And then we do a launch event, a release event, where we invited, we had like 56 medias, that's from TikTokers, influencers, YouTubers, journalists. And we made a presentation for them, explaining our game. We even got some hats from, hats like this. And some guns and stuff like that. They were cosplaying that day, and we had interviews. We made slots of 15 minutes for interviews, and after the presentation, whoever's reserved could talk to Vasco and to the publisher for 15 minutes.
And that helped a lot. So people that went to the event started making some videos about it, and I mean, we had many comments on those videos asking like, where can I get a copy?
And then people that get copies would also do the typical unboxing video. And that generated even more. And then they would play in a different video. So all of a sudden you have like one content creator, yes, but he's doing like 4 videos, and comments would always be, where can I buy it? Where can I get it?
And I mean, I don't know if you will agree with me, but like, Portugal is really small. So when people see something related to Portugal in a medium that they are not used to, they freak out. So, is there a game called Alentejo? I want it right now. I think that's
but even the Spanish ones reacted the same way. For the Spanish, for example, it was only important that the game was in Spanish.
For sure.
They even said, oh, you should also do about Extremadura. A lot of people now are asking us to make a game about this, and about that area, and about this, and about this. So we will say, we are only one team, okay? We're not like Electronic Arts with thousands of teams.
Yes, thank you. Next question will put to Michala Volkova.
Hi. I'm sorry I didn't catch it from the start, but how many people actually worked on the game, like programmers and artists?
Okay, so the game, the Titus Law, the first one, it was composed by 4 people. So me and Ivan, it was the project manager. I was the level designer, all right, and then we had Danielle, which was our programmer, just one person, and Marta, which was the game artist. So 4 people basically.
So that's what you can do with 4 persons.
So it is a very good example of a very successful game by 4 people. So it is very interesting for us because our students try to do projects just maybe 3, 4, 5 people together. So it is very a good example for them. Next question will put Dalibor Cognac.
You can do it. You can do it with only a lot of persons, but with a lot of research as well.
Hello. First of all,
Hello.
Congratulations on your success. I was wondering, how did you actually make it work on a Game Boy, if you can answer that?
Okay. We use a middleware or a game engine as well. Now it's called GB Studio. GB, of course, from Game Boy Studio. And GB Studio you can do an executable for web browser, and you can do it for the Game Boy, and you can do it for PC if you mix it a little bit around. But the magic, I think, is web browser and Game Boy.
So, but it's a nice software engine in this case, because it helps you doing some experiments or concepts in a fast way, because it's so limited that you can explore really cool ideas in short time. And for example, GB Studio has this thing where you can only have like a number of sprites per scene because of the limitations of the Game Boy itself. So it's a challenge, but it is something that is good for us in a way.
10?
I think that, for example, 10 characters in the same scene is the max that you can have, for example.
So you cannot do a bullet hell, let's say. or you can,
Yeah.
but you have to think it in a different way. And that's sometimes people that we come across say, "Oh, that's really limited," and for us, it's like, "No, that's really cool."
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it obliges us to think in a different way, or to think like instead of putting so much stuff in the same screen, we can divide it in 3 screens, or what can we do that's different here? Or okay, it's push and pull, yeah, but what about if it's push and pull, but also with levers, with a little bit of shooting? So we prototype really fast. That's one of the biggest advantages. For example, when you use Unity or Unreal, it's too flexible in the sense like it lets you to do anything. You're just limited by the experience of the persons that are working with it.
Yeah.
But that sometimes can be also a downfall because you can do everything, you sometimes get lost in the scope.
Yeah.
And we both already did games in Unity, in Unreal, mobile, and we come across that situation. And one of the reasons we selected GB Studio was like the scope is really manageable.
Yeah, and we already had some experience with GB Studio. We made some few projects, like small ones, but it helped us like seeing what is possible to do in like a bigger game like a Lintage, and it helped us a lot with the ideas.
Okay, thank you very much for your very successful presentation and game presentation. We wish you a lot of successes for future sequel that you are preparing. Thank you very much for the presentation. So we are in the end of our conference, and the last speaker will be Alexander Kau from Poland. I hope he's here still. Yes, we can see you. Welcome, Alexander. So I admire your lectures on website or on internet, and I will ask you to tell something us about heroes that not all the time must fight. So please explain us.
So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alexander Kau, and today I'd like to talk about this war of mine. I lost control. Oh, okay, it works. So, who am I? I was the programmer of Anomaly series and the Funky Smugglers game. I worked for 11-bit for like 14 years now, so quite a long time. I was also one of the main programmers of This War of Mine, one of the project leads of Frostpunk, senior technology lead in Frostpunk 2, and right now I'm technical director of a new 11-bit Studios game that I cannot talk about yet. And today we'll look into This War of Mine and how we, what methods we used to create the illusion of being a civilian during siege of town, wartime, basically. So, This War of Mine was a game released in 2014, so it's 11 years now. It was made by a team of roughly 30 people. I think the core team was like 16 people, and then going towards the end, the release date, we like resized the team to 30 people helping with testing and asset creations. It took 2.5 years to develop this War of Mine, and until now it's sold over 7 million copies on all platforms. I think right now it's more because this presentation is like 1 year or 2 years old. So, yeah. If you download the game, the main premise is written on the wall in the first screen of the game. So this is very anti-war. The game has a very anti-war pacifist message. You are a group of civilians living in a destroyed building, mostly destroyed building. You can develop this building, clear it of rubble, create some simple devices like a simple bed or stove to cook meals. And during the night, you explore the city of Pogoren, which is under uh, there is a war going between two countries. We don't really get into what kind of war and what are the reasons behind it. I mean, we know that, but the story doesn't revolve around the conflict at all. We are just presenting stories of people trying to survive in this harsh circumstances. So, project started pretty humble as another game. It was called Shelter, and it was post-apocalyptic construction game that you uh, advance your own shelter for survivals. It was before Fallout Shelter, which would be pretty much exactly the same game. So we're glad that we didn't invest any more into that project. And there was a simple prototype of shelter created in the studio, and then the idea came from one of our CEO actually, Grzegorz Miechowski. After he read an article about Sarajevo, he thought that it would be pretty good to make a game about the ordinary people living in kind of a shelter, trying to survive in the besieged city. The first prototype was just a simple simulation game in one window. We wanted to test the, let's say, economy of the game, so the basic needs of all the people, like hunger, like sleep, tiredness, defense, and overall conditions of the survivors. And then we went on to prototype more. We wanted uh, the heroes to stay at home during the day and go out only during the night. And it was actually the case in Sarajevo, where during the day people were endangered by snipers who were basically shooting everyone at random. And they only went out during the night, so the life in the city was a nightly life. We wanted to include that in our game, so during the day we stay at home and try to develop the home, and at night we explore the city looking for supplies, for food, for medications, and all other things that people need to actually live. And the second prototype was pretty much based on the artistic style we wanted to include. There was a very rough, like pencil scratches in the artistic vision. It was then softened. The game initially was black and white, then we added some color, but it's still pretty dull and desaturated because we wanted to convey the atmosphere that there are grim circumstances, and basically the survival is really uncertain. So the almost black and white tonation of the game was pretty fitting. And then the, let's say, final prototype, the vertical slice of the game, included already uh, the development of the shelter. The art style was pretty there, pretty much ready. It also included nightly escapades of people, of the civilians, to search for supplies. So it was pretty much roughly all the game. But we noticed that something was missing there. We had scavenging mechanics, we had shelter development, we had everyday needs of the people, like hunger, like tiredness, and so on. We had an AI working, so other people would react to our presence. during the scavenging, and the art style, as I said, was pretty much in there already. But there were no emotions. Aside from the general atmosphere of grim circumstances, there were no emotions in the game. It was pretty much scenes in war. So you develop your shelter, you gather new materials, and just develop the shelter more. So there was no feeling of pressure and actual emotions that we wanted to include in the game in the first place. We needed stories. And on the foundation of all our stories in this War of Mine was a concept that war always happens at somebody's doorstep. There is always someone living in the place where the actual war is happening. And with that concept in mind, the first story that really made an impact was a story about two elderly people, an elderly couple living in a house nearby the shelter. They were harmless. I mean, they actually couldn't do anything when you come into their home, and they're just like moving around, pretty much asking you what are you gonna do with them. And the player could, of course, be a bad guy, be a robber, murder the family and take all the stuff they had. They didn't even like made any. They weren't even an obstacle. So it was also possible to just take their stuff. And the balance was that you couldn't take all of it at once. So at one point you had to return there. And what they had in their basement was a lot of medications. And when you revisited the house once more, if you've taken the medications they had, you would notice that the lady died because of lack of the medications, and the man killed himself because his wife died. And that was visible by the player. Uh, you visit the house, there is no one there, and then you go to the upper floor and you see that the elderly couple is dead. So basically, your needs were more important than their survival, and those kind of decisions really resonated with us. So you didn't, as a player, you didn't actually do anything that could harm them. You just took their stuff, and that was enough for them to not survive. And using your gameplay mechanics, you could create like emergent narrative stories similar to that. And that's exactly what we did. And it worked. And it was became a really, really sad game because most of the events are pretty harsh. It's often deciding whether you survive or you have better chances of survival, and other people suffering from that. And we went with the first story and some other less impactful to the press. We showed the game on some events, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. So during the development, we've had this kind of cards on our monitors, so we can't lose what we have because we really knew we had something important, and we wanted to build on that, build the whole game around this idea that the emerging stories from the gameplay, directly from players' decisions, gameplay decisions, impact the world and impact the emotions of the player and like the world of this War of Mine. So we've prepared a set of principles. We do not ever judge the player directly. We just show the consequences of their actions. As with the elderly couple, we do not reprimand the player that he has done something bad, no reputation system where you can go renegade or protagonist. So we do not ever judge the player, just show what impact they have on the game world. We focus on the tone, especially the wording and the overall atmosphere, mm, so that it like fits the seriousness of the topic we were handling. We wanted to depict ordinary people trying to simply survive. We didn't want to create like a good combat system because this game is not about the combat in any shape or form. It's just trying to simply survive. So even if you play the game, the combat is pretty random, and that's a deliberate decision because you are not a hero here. You are just the ordinary group of ordinary people trying to survive. We didn't want to connect with any real life conflict, and of course, we based the game on the conflict, the siege of Sarajevo, but we didn't want to directly tell what conflict is that and what like time frame does it happen. So the fictional city of Pugoren was the choice, and we wanted to separate from any actual conflict. There was war in Syria going during the development, and right before the release, there was the situation on Crimea in Ukraine. So we didn't really want to engage in any of that. This game is universally anti-war and not political in any shape or form. And we wanted to stand with the main message that war is always horrible, especially for the people that are indirectly affected. I mean, directly affected by the war, but they do not participate in combat. So, what we needed was characters and try to convey the message that you are not the hero of the story, you're no Batman, you are just a bunch of ordinary people. And the core principle on characters is that in war, not everyone is a soldier, so there are people that are usually omitted in video games that are just there and the war came to their doorstep. So to do that, we thought that the faces of the civilians should be as ordinary as possible. So what we did, we took pictures of ourselves. These are the pictures of people from this War of Mine team, their spouses, their parents. If you can see the cursor, I am here with a little bit of gray hair. I was a priest actually in the game. So these are just the people that you meet every day with some darkened tone of the photographers. But yeah, and also the, let's say, classes of citizens that we created were pretty normal. There was Anton, math teacher, who was actually a security guard in the studio. There was Bruno, who was a chef, and he was a concept artist in this War of Mine. There was Sveta, a teacher, who was our accountant back then. So ordinary people and ordinary, like normal classes of sets of skills that the characters had. So on one hand, you had Bruno, who was a good cook, and it actually impacted the gameplay so that he could prepare meals from lesser food than the other characters. But there was also Anton, who was a good mathematician, and he had that skill which had no impact in the world, in the game, no gameplay impact, because yeah, you're good at math, and you cannot actually use that skill in the game. I mean, during the war, maths for a civilian is not a useful skill. So often the players after the release wondered whether that does something or not. It doesn't. It's just to portray that people have various skills, but in extreme circumstances, they are pretty much useless. They are useful in normal functioning society, but during the war, they are pretty much useless. We also scanned ourselves using Kinect to make the models in the game. It was pretty rough back then, like 16 people trying to scan using simple tools, but it also worked. The models were actually the people like connected with the faces. They were the same people with a bunch of strange clothes, like old clothes from our wardrobes, put on. And the story is conveyed, aside from the actual in-game mechanics, the story was conveyed by photos, series of photos that indirectly could depict violence, but we didn't want the game to have like any gore in it or something like that. That was not the message. We wanted to like imply that what happened using various tools to do that. So like indirectly message the player what is actually happening. Uh, I'm sorry. Uh, then we've created the little ones. The first add-on to this War of Mine, which included something that was missing in the base game. So children during the war. And the problem with children is that they are children. So they ask very simple questions that could make the player think because they do not really grasp the idea of what's happening around them. And we were especially careful with handling children. So one of our core principles with them is that we didn't want them to ever die in the game. So they couldn't leave the shelter because that would be strange when you have adults and they can go to scavenge by night. And if they were to die from hunger, for example, the game would say that somebody came for them to rescue those children. We know that a lot of dramatic things happen to children during the wartime, but it was like too much to be included in the already quite depressing game work. So we also cooperated. The game had an impact, and we also cooperated with War Child, raising a lot of money for charities. We also, when the war in Ukraine started to happen, we also helped them. And with that game, we are constantly trying to uh, do as much good as we can in all of the wars happening around. So the game itself is some kind of message, anti-war message. And that will be it. Thank you very much. I am now, of course, open to any questions that you might have.
Yes, we prepared questions for you. The first question will put our student from game design, Lucia Foskova. She's not here. Please, Martin Valentko.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I'm actually a fan of the game. I played it a couple times. But my question is, you say you worked in this industry for a lot of years. So what is the thing that evolved the most or changed through the years in game development?
Like overall, I think that uh, the games created are we have more variety in games. I mean, mechanically, the like basic genres were established. I don't know. I think in 2000s, and right now we have a wider variety of topics. Like we have something like Hellblade game. We have This War of Mine. We have games with hardware messages. We have games with software messages. There's a lot more variety than it was when I started in game development. So yeah, I think that's what changed. The games try to tell stories about different topics. They might be light, they might be harsh, but there is more variety in them.
Yes, thank you. Next question, Samo Chijimar. New microphone.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was well, it's a really nice game. I'm not much familiar with it, but I was wondering if there are any more mechanics inspired by like realistic ways how people survive during the war times or what they struggle with. I guess.
You mean if there are more games about survival during the war?
Well, you've shown some mechanics like, well, at least you mentioned like going outside during the night, because during the day there are a lot of snipers, if I remember correctly. I was just wondering if there are any more mechanics that like are inspired by the, how to say that, the reality of war, like how people struggle during the times.
So yeah, the scavenging mechanics is like was one of the core principles, and the other pretty important was the mental state of the civilians living there. So people, the survivors in the shelter could get depressed pretty much by the events they see around them, and that was implemented like people got trauma points, and up to some point they can resist the trauma, although their character is changing to a point where there is too much for them, and they either leave the shelter or even commit suicide. So that was one of the most important mechanics. And there is a simple stealth mechanism to just avoid bandits. And also your shelter could be raided during the night. So you have like pillagers going around, just like the player himself, going around looking for resources. So yeah, I think those four mechanics are the core of creating the illusion of being living during the war. And you had also visitors from around the city, so people could visit your shelter asking for help or even helping you. So we wanted to show that there is a lot of good things, good people, even in harsh times, and you could probably be one of them. And you could also receive the help from the neighbors. So not only bad things happen.
Thank you. And last question will put Josef from me.
Hey there. Thank you for presentation. The game looks nice, and my question is, where did you do the research for the game, and whether you were inspired by real stories from the war, or yeah, where you do the research?
Yeah, we did thorough research. I mean, the game was mainly inspired by the war in Sarajevo, so we also contacted an actual survivor from Sarajevo, and to just evaluate, like, he is also a game developer, a small one. He makes indie games, and we wanted to ask him whether we actually convey any type of atmosphere that was actually there. So that was one thing. Our design team also read a lot of articles about war, books. It was pretty harsh for them. I mean, these are not like lectures that you can just read and forget about. So yeah, we did a thorough research on the siege of Sarajevo, but also Second World War, or even like the Japanese versus Chinese war that happened, and Second World War, of course. So yeah, we tried to prepare, because if we failed in delivering the base message and the base atmosphere, it would be uh, disgraceful even for the actual people that went through that hell. So yeah, we did as much research as we could.
Yes, thank you. And last, my note will be about that I admire that you will be able to put to this game emotions that you described, that were missing in one moment, and then you put philosophy in your game. So there are two main ideas that are very, very important for our students, and I all the time stress that they have to do it. And one of conditions that I put to my students to choose these genres in games when they can show the faces, or they can show body language of their characters. So I want to ask you if in your game you showed your faces with emotions, and if you showed body language with kind of walking, or the fingers, or whatever.
Well, the main thing about showing emotions on faces and in animations is the cost of that. The harsh reality is that it's pretty expensive to have good animations and good facial animations. And during the development of this War of Mine, we just didn't have the budget to do so in a proper way. I mean, you could easily get into the funny zone, and that's definitely what we didn't want to do. So we stayed with the still photographs of people, but in animations they can be pretty harsh. There's a scene where a soldier is basically hurting a young girl, and you, as an observer, it's pretty gut wrenching. And he then takes her to like a van, and you only can imagine what will happen there. And as a player, you can't you can react, but this is a soldier with firearms, and you probably can't do anything to actually help. So with our budget, we tried to inflict the emotions through gameplay and actual decisions with implied scenes and implied emotions on the characters, because like we couldn't really show them in game. But yeah, of course, it's possible if you look at Hellblade, the first one, that there is a lot of emotion in facial expression, and that's definitely something worth looking into. We just had to choose other other means to convey those.
Fantastic. Thank you for your answer. Thank you very much for your presentation. And,
Sorry, can I just say one thing?
yes, one question more.
Sorry to interrupt. I know that this is a very long day. Just to say one one thing. A big thanks to Alexander and to all the students that are here in the room. Please play this game. To be honest, in life, there are in my hand I have I don't know 5 books that I will remember. I have some films that will be with me for all of the life that are really really meaningful. And if I have to select, I don't know, my 5 best games ever, this World of Mine is one of that. It's really, really meaningful game. It's a really relevant game, and unfortunately, it's very actual with the things that are happening in world. So please play this game. The choices we make in the game are quite hard for the players, for everyone. And so thank you for creating this game and for studying critical game design. This is one of the best ever examples. So thank you for that. Just to say that.
Thank you a lot.
So thank you very much. Felipe was probably all the time with us. He was here yesterday. He probably spent some time today. So try to tell some general idea about this conference, and then we'll finish our conference at all.
Okay, so I don't want to take much more longer, but I already speak for this amazing last presentation. But yesterday was an amazing day with lots of presentation from students. I will not repeat my yesterday session, but this day there was some very very cool connections between, for instance, between the presentation from Martin, which was very very pedagogical, Martin Petrasek, and later with the connections that Ryan Liley made. That was really, really important, how to reach the industry, how to do the network, among the others. The work that is made, that Ryan Lilly made on Unreal Engine education is also really, really relevant. Some of the your students comment that. Oliver Rutter made also a really, really good presentation. And that was also connected with the virtual production from Paula Leininger. By the way, during these days in Breda in Holland, there's the virtual production gathering event. So some of colleagues of Paula and alumni from us were there presenting tools, interesting tools, game tools that are being used in virtual production for film, which is a huge and very relevant market for game students. And yes, with some wine, red wine, the Alentejo Tinto's Law in old vintage Game Boy style. The presentation, I think, was really passionate from Ivan and Vasco. So I think it was a very, very productive day, and I think I didn't forget anyone. So a big thanks once again for organizing this event. Fantastic presentations from the professionals today. So I'm just amazed. And congrats again to ASMU for this project and Professor Ludwig, sorry, my spelling.
Okay, thank you, Felipe. He spent 2 days with us, and I want to thank you also, University Rusofona. that participated mainly on the first day and today also in this project, successful project for Game Boy. Generally, I want to tell that this conference I count the best until now. I said this international forum has now 6 years, and after 6 years of international presentations, I think that also students' presentations and also professional presentations was the highest level until now. What happened? We spent time with representatives from 8 countries, and the next countries was in participation of students. So it is really international, and you can compare your point of view from Slovakia with Belarus or Russia point of view, or Czech view of students from Czech Republic. You can compare with these views all over the world. Very interesting for me presentation from students from Philippines. Yes, and maybe in future we'll have connection with Australia or with west side of America, as we got promised. So the message of this conference is really internationality. The message is that we have get inspiration from all over the world and find the best things that they find until now, and we want to, as we said, we want to continue in our project that must have philosophy and must have emotions. So this message that I want to stress for you, and if you will give it to your projects, I'm sure that you will be successful. So for this moment, I count this conference as finished. I like that you came here and you spent these 2 days with our guests, and last time we